Hey, so welcome back again to the Arthur Leningo Zoom room. Nice expression session, Archie and Elaine. So that'll lead us nicely into today's quote. Let's kick it off with a quote as normal. Today's theme is all about forgiveness. What is true forgiveness? And what is its opposite? So we'll be discussing that, going into that in a lot more detail. So let me share my screen with you. And we'll crack on with it, shall we? Just give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so can you see that, Archie?
It hasn't come
You
up yet.
can
Yeah.
you can read that for us. That'd be great.
Yep. So forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did. Oh, sorry, I'll start again. Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. It does not pardon sins and make them real. It sees there was no sin, and in that view are all your sins forgiven.
Yeah, a great quote about forgiveness. Just going to go from the introduction, first insert in part 2 of the workbook. One of the most quoted lines on forgiveness in course. It simply recognizes that what they did hasn't occurred.
Yeah.
It just sees there was no sin. In that you all your sins forgiven. So it's radical forgiveness because you're saying it didn't happen. This is, of course, what our ego minds struggle immensely with. Well, how can you say it didn't happen? It did happen. And I've got the scars to prove it. You know, this person did this and they hurt me physically, mentally, emotionally. Look, that's evidence that it happened. And that's why we struggle so much with forgiveness, because it completely denies the reality of what seemingly happened to us. So it's a very succinct summary of what radical forgiveness, as Yeshua teaches it in A Course in Miracles, really is. As he says in the quote, radical forgiveness simply overlooks all, quote, sin, which it sees as ephemeral error that doesn't really exist. Therefore, radical forgiveness helps you understand that there's really nothing to forgive, and it restores your mind to an awareness of its true nature as unconditional love, which by definition doesn't acknowledge any conditions for love to occur. You don't need conditions to love. Love is just given unconditionally. So it's going to be helpful just to consider the ego's plan for forgiveness instead of this. Okay, so in contrast to radical forgiveness, which is the Holy Spirit's way of forgiveness, and its plan for our awakening, what is the ego's plan? And that plan always makes errors real and permanent in your perception. And that's the definition of sin. And that's real, permanent, and punishable, right? Sin is error made real, permanent, and punishable. The reason why I don't translate sin in the course is because that's too much of a mouthful. Error made real, permanent, and punishable is just too long. But that's essentially what sin means. And it means that error will be overlooked. If they are real and they're permanent and they are punishable, they can't act. They must be acted on, they must be punished. They become very real in your mind and in your perception. And so that leads to the ego's perception that completely pardoning someone's plainly visible sins is impossible self-deception. And the options that it offers instead of radical forgiveness are, the first one is pseudo-forgiveness. So that's the pious person, usually religious, who's self-righteously put themselves above the so-called sinner, says, well, I'm holier than thou, I'm so holy, you're a sinner, but the Bible says I should forgive you, so I forgive you, you miserable, for your sin, because that's what a good Christian should do. But it happens in every religion. But I'm just taking Christianity as an example because forgiveness is part of the Christian tradition. And you might have come into contact with people who are this way, the pious, holier than thou, I think they say. The holier than thou person would be someone who is pseudo forgiving. So I think we all know that that's not really forgiveness. There's no genuine letting go. This person is actually quite condemnatory in their judgment. There's a separation because I see myself as separate from the sinner because I'm so holy and they're such a miserable sinner. And so it's really just about confirming separation and projecting guilt self-righteously onto someone else and saying they're the guilty ones and aren't I so innocent because I'm this holier than thou, good Christian person, and this other person's a miserable sinner. And that is pseudo-forgiveness. In other words, it's not true forgiveness at all. It's false. It's not in any way genuine, and it's simply not forgiveness. It's actually just self-righteous condemnation in disguise. And then the second approach, yeah.
Is it
any questions?
So yes, sorry, Jonathan, to interrupt, but
No problem.
so if there is nothing to forgive, then why have forgiveness at all? Then is there
because we think there's something to forgive. That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay. So
there's nothing really to forgive, but you tell that to most people and they're like, no, absolutely. Like there's loads of stuff that's happened to me. I've got loads of grievances. So he has to meet us where we are in the situation of sin and guilt, where we think that is all real. And so forgiveness is the way out of that.
Okay.
It's an illusion.
Yeah.
Right? Forgiveness is an illusion. He says this in the Course. But it's the only illusion that undoes all other illusions. So it's not ultimate truth. It's an illusion that leads us to the truth.
Yeah.
I'm just going to show you this.
Okay.
So this diagram shows it quite well. Just wait for it to load. So it's going to show you the Holy Trinity diagram, which illustrates quite well where forgiveness comes in. So we're dealing at this level, right? Between the level of illusion, that's everything in the red box. People, places, things, events, circumstances, experiences that seem to exist and happen in the physical universe of time and space. Illusion. But we identify with the illusion. When you're immersed in this and you don't know any better, you think that that's reality.
Yeah.
And you think that you're a little self trying to deal with this chaotic, fearful reality, and it all seems to be very real, and you're caught up in hell. So he's saying, well, you need an illusion to get you out of that, and that illusion is called forgiveness or letting go, which corrects your perception. So that instead of identifying with yourself as the little person stuck in hell and dealing with all this stuff, and it's just really upsetting and fearful, and your emotions and thoughts are all over the place, you start identifying with the true self and perceiving it from a perspective of the higher self, of oneness, saying, well, I can change my perception of this. I don't have to be so upset. I can see peace irrespective of what's happening here. And so I can move out of this chaotic, turbulent thought system into into a higher self that knows peace, even while it's still engaged in the world. And so that's sort of the mezzanine level. This is above the battleground, and we can look on all this stuff, but not be moved by it, not be attached to it. But all of this is still illusion, right? We're still not home. Only this is reality.
Yeah.
Level 1, as Ken Wapnick called it. This is reality. This is truth, where there's no illusions at all. So we're not there yet, but it's a process of crossing the bridge between illusion and truth.
Yeah.
And, so the pathway or the bridge is part of the illusion, because in truth you already are what you are, right? You're already just God. But you've forgotten that, and now you seem to have to make a journey back home to a place that you've always been and you've never really left, but you thought you did. And so that's where, this idea of forgiveness and whatever else you call it, at-one-ment, awakening, the resurrection, corrections, miracles, transformation. There's many names for it, but all of that is illusory ultimately. Yeah. Because in heaven, there's no need for anything to change. You don't need a process called forgiveness. You don't need to forgive the truth. You only need to forgive an illusion.
Yeah, brilliant. No, thank you for explaining that.
It's just we need it because we have to find a way out, and there has to be a journey home. There has to be a way to do that, and He's given us that, and that's really what the Holy Trinity is about. Saying, right, this is a system that's going to get you out of the illusion. You're lost in the dream. I'm going to give you the system to take you out of it. And it wouldn't be very helpful to just say, well, you don't need to forgive. You don't need to do any of this mind training, this perception correction, because you're already home. And there are some teachers you probably heard, well, there's nothing to forgive. And we just the pathless path, and there's no technique needed, and you just bliss out and stay in your true self, pure formless awareness or perfect love or Brahman or Nirvana, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's the highest level of it. But anyone who's got there, there's been a process to get there. Very, very unlikely that they just suddenly got there. They went through a journey to get there, and that journey is forgiveness or letting go. And so while we're here, we absolutely need the journey, and we need the signposts on the journey, even though they're not ultimately true. They're not the destination, but they point us to the destination. So, that parable of the finger pointing at the moon. You need the finger pointing you to the moon as long as you're not fully connected with the moon. Once you're in the light of the moon, then there's no need for a finger anymore, because you are one with that which you've been pointed to all this time. But the finger, the pointers, the signposts are very, very useful while you're making the journey, and so that's why we have spiritual teachings, and why we have a course like A Course in Miracles, because we need to learn how to do this, how to awaken, and He has to meet us where we are, and help us to do that. Otherwise, He wouldn't be a very good teacher. Just talking level 1 when you're in level 2 isn't very helpful. He's got to show you the way out of level 2 and back to level 1 using this process called forgiveness. Okay, so I hope that answers the question.
It does, thank you. Yeah.
Good. And so then the second type of forgiveness that the ego will eagerly sponsor is called compassionate forgiveness. And so that's a bit harder to see through, but nevertheless, it's false. What you're trying to do there is understand that the person did the best they could, given their state of consciousness at the time. You try hard not to judge them. You say, well, that person just did the best they could. If they'd known how to do any better, they would have done it. So it does soften your judgment. But if you've ever tried it, and we all have, it does remove it. You notice that, because you've still made what the person did real in your mind, and then you try and mitigate the judgment. So you've still made it real, and then you go, okay, well, I'm really feeling upset and angry, and I feel this person should be punished, or I need to take. No. Okay, so just they just did the best they could, but they still did it.
Mm.
That's where it misses the mark of radical forgiveness. So I'll just go through both of these. The first approach is pseudo forgiveness. Yeshua calls it forgiveness to destroy. In the Song of Prayer supplement, dedicates a whole section to it. So we'll read that towards the end of this 1 year program, because we get to all the supplements in the last month or two. So that'll be sometime next year. But essentially what he's saying in that supplement is that forgiveness to destroy is really just judgment and condemnation masquerading as forgiveness. Okay? So I'm sitting in my self-righteous, pious state saying, well, you're a sinner and I'm holier than thou and I'm so innocent. You're really just judging and condemning, and you're making sin and guilt real and projecting that onto the other person, which is exactly what you shouldn't be doing in the name of forgiveness. So forgiveness to destroy, a pseudo forgiveness. It's not really forgiveness at all. There's no letting go, really. It's just the ego masquerading as forgiveness, which, it's very cunning. It'll try and do that, but it's not that difficult to see through it. And what it's designed to do is to reinforce the separate and superior identity of the person who's apparently bestowing the forgiveness, without any genuine intent on his or her part to let go of the judgment and condemnation. So I'm so self-righteous, I'm just holier than thou, sun shines out of every orifice, and you the evil sinner, and aren't I so special, and aren't you such a miserable sinner? But I forgive you, my brother or sister, because I'm such a good Christian, and I should be doing that. Like, not really. It doesn't really wash if you're honest about it, does it? It's clearly false. It's not forgiveness at all. It's just judgment and condemnation in very thin disguise. Because healing happens through the unification of seemingly separate minds. Pseudo forgiveness can't heal anyone ever, but it really just reinforces the ego's separate identity in the minds of both the person who's pseudo forgiving and the person on whom the pseudo forgiveness is, quote, bestowed. Because the imagined superiority of the person pseudo forgiving over the so-called sinner will be strengthened in his mind, while the sinner will sense that they're really being condemned by the other person. Will usually react to the pseudo forgiving person based on their apparent guilt in a defensive, angry, or fearful way. It strengthens their false self-concept of being a guilty sinner and their sense of being separate from the pseudo forgiver. So both ways, it strengthens separation, and that's, remember, what the ego is all about, separation. So I think that's pretty simple to see that isn't going to work, that is clearly an ego strategy. It's the ego trying to hijack forgiveness and somehow bring it into its fold and give you another version of it. It's incredibly cunning, but it doesn't take that much to see that it's false. Can you both see that?
Yeah.
Great. So not difficult to see that's false. It's never going to work to free anyone from sin and guilt. But the second type of forgiveness is a bit trickier. I just want to call compassionate forgiveness. So we've heard of compassion. It's very much part of the Buddhist teaching. The Course calls it empathy. Many spiritual teachings talk about the benefit of compassion and understanding and so on. So you might say, well, but, this is quite a spiritual quality and one we should be trying to cultivate. But if you really look at it carefully, this is where the ego gets very devious and cunning, and it's just trying to trick us again into a false version of forgiveness, because it doesn't want you to learn the radical forgiveness, because that is going to undo it. So remember, it's just trying to survive here. So is Elaine gone? Okay. Elaine's disappeared. All right, maybe she'll come back. I don't know. So the ego is just the belief in separation, and what it's trying to do is convince us that this compassion, forgiveness will somehow work. And what compassionate forgiveness does is it still assumes that whatever has seemingly happened to upset you, disturb your peace, has really happened. And so that's its fundamental premise. And now its negative effects in your mind must be mitigated by trying to understand why the other person did what they did, which assumes that they really did do it. So there's the problem. You're making it real, and then you're trying to mitigate the consequences of it. So it makes the situation, the characters participating in it, real to the compassionate forgiver, who will then still have a sense of being a separate person living in a hostile world, trying and struggling to forgive what is seemingly unforgivable. And that's why so many people struggle with forgiveness. So you're either going to do it pseudo-forgiveness, which isn't forgiveness at all, you're still really judging and condemning. This is an attempt to soften your judgment. Say, well, okay, I've got to understand where this person is coming from. Maybe they had a terrible childhood, maybe they were abused themselves, maybe they're just under a lot of stress now. All of these mitigating factors come in. So it mitigates your judgment, but you'll notice that you still get angry. Have you noticed when you try with compassion, forgiveness, there's still an underlying this person has still done this, and it's still annoying. Okay, no, just let it go, like mitigate, understand why they did it, but the core of it isn't gone. It's still there. So you're trying to lessen the negative of the seeming offense in your mind, which is a step in the right direction, if you still believe the offense was really committed. And then the world and their separate identity operating it remain real to you. So you still believe it's real. You still believe you're a separate person, they're a separate person. So you haven't really broken that construct of separation at all. You have mitigated your judgment a bit. You're not as condemnatory. It's certainly better than the pseudo forgiveness. But it's really just a halfway house between pseudo-forgiveness and the true or radical forgiveness that Yeshua teaches in A Course in Miracles, which he summarizes beautifully in today's quote. It's a good starting point, but it's not going to take you all the way home to the transcendent dimension of reality that Yeshua calls the kingdom of heaven, because it still makes the world a sense of separate self, that is the ego, real in your mind. That's the fundamental problem with this. Is that understandable, clear?
Yeah.
So we've got to just be wary of that. It's probably how most people, spiritual people, would try and do forgiveness, who a little bit more awakened than say the self-righteous, pious version. It's like, yeah, okay, I can understand. They're just doing the best they can, etc. But you still made it real. And now, so how do you let go of what you've made real in your mind and in your perception? And so that's where radical forgiveness comes in as the answer. This gets to the root of the problem. Radix, the Latin word from which radicals derive, means root, in fact. So interesting that we use the term radical often to denote people who are dangerous. They're a radical terrorist. They're like too radical. This is dangerous. But actually what it really means is you're just going to get to the root of any problem and you're going to solve it at its root. Now, surely that's the only way you're ever going to solve the problem. You're not going to solve the problem by just, like, take the weed example, by just chopping off the top of the weed and leaving the root there. It's going to grow again. You've got to uproot it. So this is the approach of the radical forgiveness. Take it out at its foundation in your mind by simply denying that anything other than unconditional love is real. Right? So there's the problem. Separation, the idea of separation, the idea that something else than unconditional love is real, that's the problem. So really, I've just got to deny anything that is not unconditional love. And that then encompasses my separate self, all of my perceptions of my separate self, the world that it perceives, everything. All of that's got to go because it's not coming from unconditional love. So if any word, action, or behavior that's seemingly been said or done is unloving, it's unreal and it has no existence or effect. That's the radical truth that we have to remember. That's radical forgiveness. So that's the Holy Spirit's perfect logic. that cancels out all errors and helps you recognize that you and the seeming, quote, other person, not really other, that you're forgiving, are not and never have been separate. They're not a separate person at all. They're just a projection of an insane mind, seeming to be a separate person with their own mind. And then in this insane construct of projection, they seem to be able to say and do things that are hurtful to you as a separate person from them. But all of that is part of the illusion that the ego is cleverly constructed to prevent you from seeing the truth that you're already one and the same awareness as them. So only radical forgiveness with the help of the Holy Spirit, which remember is just the remembrance of perfect unconditional love or abundance, will return your mind to a state of unconditional love or abundance. It's not rocket science. It's only that remembers that state. This is the Holy Spirit. Only that is going to take you back to that state. You've got to listen to that remembrance and let it guide you in your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And then you realize that you and everyone and everything else that seems to have a separate form in this world are really one and the same. Pure formless awareness of perfect love or abundance. We're all the same. We're all connected. We're all one awareness. So this idea that we're a separate person who has separate ideas, separate identity, separate ideas, who can just act in ways that are separate that hurt other people, that idea is completely false. And it may have played out in your life. It plays out over and over, but all of that is just a false construct of an insane mind. And once we really get that, then we awaken to who we really are. Because none of the projections then matter at all, right? You see how radical this is? None of it matters. It's all the same. All the shifts and the changes, everything that anyone's ever done and said, including myself, in this dream world, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
It's just a dream. You just completely pop the bubble, the dream disappears, and you go back to this pure formless awareness of perfect love or abundance that is everyone's true nature, everyone's fundamental awareness. And that's what forgiveness does. It takes you back into that state of mind and helps you let go of your false belief that all of this crazy, chaotic, insane stuff that the ego's projected is real. So it's very radical because it completely pulls the plug on that whole system. That's why it's radical. But it gets to the root of the problem, which is that you believe separation is real. And that because separation is real, these things are now happening. And it all seems to be very real in your mind, in your perception, in your reality. And then you suffer because of that. But the way out is quite simple. Just deny it. It's not true. And there isn't really another way. You can try these other approaches, compassion, forgiveness, say to someone, well, look, it's a start. At least you're starting to question the ego's judgment and thought system. But it's not nearly far enough. That's not going to free your mind from the idea that you're separate self.
Yeah, because what I've also what I've also done, Jonathan, is I've tried to separate the behavior from the person. So so I'm not condemning the person, but then I'm condemning the behavior.
But you still, I know it all sounds like, well, I'm not condemning you, but I'm condemning the behavior. But hang on, if you're really honest with yourself, like there's still condemnation going on in your mind.
Exactly, because I'm still condemning. It's just that I've separated the behavior from the person. But
you see how the ego is desperate. Well, okay, so that's okay then. I can get away with that. I'll just do that. No, I'm not condemning you. I'm condemning your behavior. No, but you still got the thought and the emotion of condemnation in your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going on for you. So, like, you can try and fudge it all you want. If you're honest about it, you're still separating yourself from that other person and from the whole through that thought and that emotion. That's making you seemingly separate from them and seemingly separate from the rest of the world. And the emotion and the thought that you're experiencing isn't pleasant. It's not happiness, and it's not peace, and it's not love and joy. It's an unpleasant emotion. So that's why, whenever you judge anyone else, you're suffering because you're experiencing that unpleasant ego emotion, and you're suffering because of it. Which is why you've just got to let it go. That's why I use letting go rather than forgiveness. Let go of that whole thought and emotion. Just drop it, because that's your problem. That's the root of the problem, is that thought and emotion in your mind is the root of the ego. That's the problem.
So it's
and it's
letting
been
go.
triggered by the other person, but it was already there.
Yeah, so it's letting go of the judgment and condemnation. That's what we're letting go of.
Yeah, and the only way to do that is to deny its reality. Because if you make it real, you're going to go, but that's outrageous. How can you do that? You've done this, and that violates all standards of good behavior, and it's not I can't condone that. That's terrible. Okay, but now having done that, now I've got to somehow soften that judgment. Oh, okay, well, it's just the behavior, and it's not you. And again, it's a version of compassion and forgiveness, isn't it? What you've just described.
Yeah.
It's the behavior, it's not the person. Okay, so you're behaving that way because of your conditioning and your programming. I understand that it's not really who you are. Underneath that, you're still a beautiful Christ being. Maybe intellectually you think that, but then I really still don't like your behavior, and I'm really still making that real in my mind, and I'm really still actually angry, if I'm honest. And my anger is barely mitigated. It's maybe a little bit softened, but if you really dig and you go a bit deeper into the core of it, what do you see? You see anger there. It's still there. It's this hard, we've all felt it, that hard kind of core of I'm just and I want to do something about it. I want to attack someone, or do something because I'm just so angry. And that core of that is what he's talking about. That's the core of your ego. That's what you've got to let go of. So how do you do that? I'm saying, well, the only way of doing that is let go of the idea that it's real. Because that just undermines the whole thing. If you really understand that the whole thing is just a bad dream. And none of it matters at all. It's just this crazy, mad, insane dream you've got caught up in. None of it's true. None of it matters. There's really just this perfect peace, happiness, joy, this inner feeling that's just lovely. And that's all that's real. Then why would you hang on to all of that mental and emotional pain? So radical forgiveness is the only way out of it. There's no other way. And you can try every other way, known to man. People have over 5 years, and they haven't found any other way than this way. So eventually, you just have to deny what the ego's created. See, the ego is an illusion. It's false. You have to look at it and just say it's not true. And that reverses the whole process. We go back to my favorite diagram anyway. I don't know about yours, but this one just tells us, exactly how this works. So you got to boil it back, take it back to first principles, and go, okay, so whatever I'm feeling down here, I might be feeling really angry and upset and like a victim, and I'm wanting to take revenge and so on. But all of that comes from this idea that I'm separate. The idea of separation has led to all of that. And that idea is not true. So therefore, neither can this be true. Neither can this thought, emotion, neither can be what seemingly happened be true either. What triggered it isn't true. The thought and emotion itself isn't true. Everything that comes from the idea of separation is untrue. And so I just have to recognize that and deny it and say it's not true. So why am I reacting to what's not true? It's simply not true. It doesn't exist. It's not real. That's the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation of the ego's dream. That's radical forgiveness. So that's the blue arrows that come into the dream as your salvation, is to wake you up from the nightmare of this egoic thought system, because it is a nightmare. To remind you that none of it's true, and you can just let it all go, even while it's happening. So these projections are happening on the screen of time, space, and people do what they do, and the world carries on, and it does all of its stuff based on the idea of separation. But you just reinterpret it all and say, no, but it's just a movie. It's just a bad dream. None of it's true. There's really only the screen, which is pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's perfectly happy, perfectly peaceful, and that's always going to be the case. Whatever's projected onto the screen is simply not true.
Yeah.
That's what we have to get our very resistant minds around, that idea.
Yes.
And accept it in all circumstances, because it's always true.
Yeah.
There's no exceptions. That's why the Course says, make no exception. Because if you make one exception, then guess what? You just made separation real. And then you have to accept all of the consequences of it. So you make one idea of separation real, guess what? You're in the whole thought system.
Yeah.
All of it then becomes real, and now death and suffering and helpless, innovative little life of limitation, lack of loneliness, suffering, and inevitably death becomes real. It's a nightmare. We make one thought of separation real, all of it becomes real. So it has to be an all or nothing approach. It has to be like, I've got to let this go entirely or not at all.
Yeah.
Because one idea of separation made real then makes it all real. And I'm caught up in the nightmare, and there's no way out because I've made it real. And so, in practice, we struggle with this. There's a real wrestling, isn't there?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, like I know.
I
like
so
once
struggle
you know
with
this
this.
teaching,
I really
yeah,
do.
but everyone does.
Yeah.
Like that's the process. That's why it's a process, because everyone struggles with it. Why? Because you are struggling against your own ego identity the whole time. The idea that you're a separate self, that's what you're struggling against. Because the all of this stuff, the madness, the chaos, the pain, the limitation, the loneliness, the suffering, the death, it makes your ego identity seemingly real. So when you let it go, you're saying that I am not a separate self anymore. I am not Archie, Jono, human being with these, this body and this personality and this life and life situation and these problems and these relationships. I'm not that. I'm denying that. That's what radical forgiveness does. So it reminds you of who you truly are beyond all of this. And of course, the ego doesn't like that at all. Finds it incredibly threatening to its existence, because it is. It's going to undo its entire existence and the entire false world it's made up. So it's the most radical thing you can do, but it's the only thing that's going to work. I think once we realize that, and it does take a while for thick skulls or thick minds to get this. But once we realize there is no other way, right? It's this or hell. Then you're like, okay, well, I have to learn this. If there's no other way, then this is the only way I'll ever find any peace, happiness, joy, and the only way I'll ever be free of this nightmare. So best I learn this. I've got to dedicate my mind and my life to learning this teaching and learning to apply it without exception, because there's no other way. That's what he's trying to get through to us. A lot of people find that very difficult to accept. There's got to be another way. Oh, I'll find another teaching. I'll find another path. Well, guess what? You can go down that other path, but you'll come to the same dilemma. And eventually you're going to have to let go of the ego on any path that you go to. on any path that you use, you eventually have to say, okay, I'm done with the idea of separation and of being a separate self. There's no other way than that. Every spiritual teaching and path leads you to that point where you have to come to that choice, and you have to make it, and then you have to keep making it and do it over and over and over again, because it's not generally a one-time choice. Oh yeah, I chose oneness, there we go, done. Well, guess what? The world continues, your body continues. It doesn't just disappear.
Challenges continue. Yeah.
Challenges continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't just disappear, unless you exit the body. But maybe you're not ready to exit the body. So, logically say, well, why don't I just get it, wake up, and then commit suicide? But because probably you haven't really got it then. Yeah. You still need more lessons. The reason why we have to go through the seemingly painful process of human life is because you need the lessons. You need these various situations to come and test you and challenge you, and it cause you the grief and the pain, whatever else, so that you can reinterpret it, and through that you can wake up to who you really are. And that's the only way out of the belief that you're a separate self. And that's why only radical forgiveness will work to awaken you. Yeah. And every spiritual technique that is of any value at all is part of that process of forgiving or letting go. So whether it's a breathwork technique or meditation or chanting or cognitive behavioral therapy or whatever the modality is, if it's helping you to let go of some of those ego thoughts and emotions and find the peace that exists in your mind beneath them, then it's helpful. That's the process. So every spiritual technique is of any value is helping you to do that. So it's all part of this bigger process of letting go, which is awakening to who you really are. So once you understand this framework, it actually becomes quite simple. I'm not saying it's easy to do, but at least you know what you've got to do.
Yeah.
Which is really helpful. Because there's nothing worse than being confused, going, well, I'll try this approach, and we've all done that. Maybe this will work, maybe this will work. Tried various different techniques, different strategies, different teachings, and it's like, oh no, that didn't work. Okay, well, let's try again. But this, now this is the latest technique, and I'll go and go to this workshop and go to this teacher, and in the end, it's all the same. Whatever technique works is part of letting go. It's helping you to let go. So if meditation helps you do that, by all means, meditate. Breathwork helps you do that, then do breathwork, because it's all part of this process. But you could just go, well, I could just make a decision. I can just look at it honestly and make the simple reinterpretation that the Holy Spirit helps us do. This isn't true. Like what I'm looking at here is just false. It's unreal. So why am I getting so caught up in all these thoughts and emotions when it's not even real? When what I'm looking on is an illusion. It's just a dream. And the more we think those kinds of thoughts, the more this starts to inculcate itself into our minds. The more we start to go, okay, yes, that this is going to be the default way that I approach anything in this world, any experience, any event, anything that seems to be happening, especially if it's difficult. I'm going to approach it with this mindset. But that's all he's trying to teach us to do. It's as simple as that. That's what forgiveness is. That's what this whole course is about.
Yeah.
You think, well, do we really need 1,500 pages to learn that? Well, yeah, obviously we do, because it's so difficult to learn. Because we don't want to listen, and we've got so entrenched into this thought system, the ego's thought system, that it's going to take a lot of practice to undo that. A lot of questioning, a lot of practice, a lot of convincing. He's got to do a convincing job on us, hasn't it? He's got to convince us that this other way of thinking and seeing the world is actually the correct way. And this is, in fact, the only way that's ever going to work. It's our only hope. And so we're just going to do that. And we're going to abandon this other way of perceiving and thinking entirely. That's what he's got to convince us of, which is, the ultimate sales job, really. That's a big ask.
Yeah.
To convince someone who's completely identified with this thought system and the self that they think they are as part of that thought system, to say, no, actually, that's all rubbish. None of it's true at all. You're not actually human. You're not actually a separate self at all. That's all just made up. It's going to take a little bit of time to get your mind around, and that's the process. Fortunately, you've got the rest of your life to learn this. So, and as many lives as you want. You can come as many times as you want to learn this. But the lesson isn't going to get easier in your next lifetime. Some people are like, well, I'll just leave it. I don't really want to wake in this lifetime. I'll do it in another one. How do you know that's going to be easier? It might be harder.
Yeah.
And I think the more you resist, the more you say, I don't want to learn it now, the harder it gets, because that resistance gets strengthened. The more you resist, the more it's like, okay, that becomes my persistent thought. Even if I know the truth on some level, no, not now. I'm not ready yet. Well, when will you be ready? If not now, then when? Because there is only now, right? You're only ever going to make it now. There is no past or future. So if you don't get it now, you're never going to get it.
Yeah.
Which then brings it immediately to the present moment. Okay, I do it now or I never do it. It's now or never.
Yeah.
And this is all part of the awakening process. Once you realize this, you go, okay, it's now or never. Like, I'm either doing it now or I'm never going to do it. So if I resist it now, what I'm really saying is I'm never going to do this, and I'll be stuck in time and space forever, because the future never comes. It's only ever now. And once we realize that, then we start to say, well, there's no other choice. I have to do it now.
Yeah.
Right? I can't procrastinate. I can't delay it. It's now. Yes, the situation's arising now. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling upset. I do it now, or I never do it, or I'm stuck in hell forever. Okay, all right, I better do it then, right? Yeah. Because rather the pain of this letting go, not easy, not difficult, than this ongoing misery that I'm going to suffer for all time, and that's never going to end, because I think death's an escape, but it's not. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to do it all over again. Endlessly, the cycle of birth. There we go, in the timeline of consciousness. I'm just going to do this, press, pray, repeat, do the same thing again and again. The cycle of birth and death is that they talk about in the Buddhist teachings. You just get caught up in this wheel, going round and around and around, and missing the point every lifetime, missing the point of who you are, of why you're really here, and trying to somehow make this ridiculous, insane dream of being a human being work.
Yeah.
At some point, we just, everyone's just going to get tired of it. At some point, everyone's going to, okay, enough. I'm done. I just can't do it anymore. And that's when the awakening really starts. At some point, usually some traumatic point in the journey, maybe it's the loss of your job, or your divorce, or someone died, or you got sick, or you lost your business, or whatever it is. At some point, the pain is great enough for the person to say, okay, I've really got to rethink this whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm really willing to consider maybe that there is another way, and there's got to be a way out of this whole mess of being human. And that's when the spiritual journey really starts in earnest. And that's when they'll be open to a teaching like A Course in Miracles and radical forgiveness. Until then, until you've suffered enough, most people go, no, that's not for me. It's too full on. It's too much. I'll just try and comfort myself with other means. Yeah. And we know what those means look like, whether it's drugs or alcohol, or endless distraction with internet or gaming, or shopping or eating, whatever it is. But that's ultimately not going to work. It's not going to alleviate your pain, because your pain is existential.
Yeah.
It's the pain of being a false self and denying the truth of who you are. That's the pain. And the only way of resolving that pain is letting go of the false self. It's as simple as that. You do that through forgiveness or letting go. Okay, so hopefully we've been through this before, I know, but hopefully that gives you.
It doesn't. I know. I keep thinking this. I know it. We've been through it a number of times, but I still find it such a difficult,
Yeah.
kind of.
So you go through it and again and again and again until eventually you accept it and you go, okay,
Yes.
I've heard it enough times. Yes, it makes complete sense. The
I
logic is there.
understand it. I understand it intellectually, Jonathan, but
Yeah.
it's just that
But it's
but that's not. I want to understand.
emotionally.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
It's the application of it. Like
Yes.
intellectual understanding is one thing. And
Yeah.
that's not that difficult. If you've got a little bit of
Yeah.
intellect, okay, like I can kind of get my head around this.
Yes.
These it's not rocket science, actually, it's quite
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
But to really apply it in my life means that I have to deny who I thought I am.
Yeah.
I have to deny that separate self, ego person that I thought I was, and that is very difficult to do.
Exactly.
Because that little self goes, oh my God, oh, alarm bells. The truth is here. This is not good. My separate existence is being seriously threatened here. Uh, Defense mechanism. Gotta get back into the ego. Gotta get back into judgment, attack thoughts, fear, whatever. Like whatever it is, it's desperate to convince you that that's the truth. So any fear, any attack, any drama, any trauma, it's going to latch onto that and try and milk it for all it's worth. Because that's going to keep you rooted down in the ego psychological and emotional attachment to the world and to the separate self. It goes, oh, poor me, look, just another trauma's happened to me. Now I got divorced. What else is going to happen to me? The little me that's, struggling and suffering in time. And so the ego then uses the world to try and create some drama to show you that it's true. And that, all of this is absolute nonsense. And how can you believe in this? It's all hocus pocus. And Jesus doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe he didn't even exist. And John is smoking something and he's just crazy and, blah, 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 blah. Anything, because it's desperate to maintain its separate identity at all costs.
Yeah.
At all costs. Remember that. So it doesn't matter the cost in suffering, pain, drama, trauma, eventually death. It doesn't matter to the ego. As long as you identify yourself as a separate self, it's happy. Even if you're completely miserable and depressed and in this terrible state of victimhood, and it doesn't care. I mean, you've seen this play out. You've had friends. Like, it's appalling. The state.
Yeah, it's horrible to
the
see.
mind takes them to. And you're like,
yeah.
Look at what your ego's done to you. How can you want that? How can you believe that?
Yeah.
But because the ego doesn't care. It will do whatever it takes to maintain itself as the dominant thought system in your mind. And it doesn't want any competition, so it's going to try and get this idea that you're a spiritual being and you're of God and you have a higher self. It's going to try and get that out of your mind entirely. So, the people who made the decision for the ego, if they've really blocked out the spirit, those are the people who are suffering the most. They're depressed. Their life situation is generally not a very good one. Because the more you disconnect from who you are, the more you suffer. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But we have a choice. The beauty of this, I'd say, okay, well, it all seems to be a bit hopeless, and the ego is this powerful entity and has created this whole world, and we're really up against it. But nevertheless, the truth is still true. And we always have a choice. Always. Doesn't matter what seems to be happening, what crisis, what drama, the truth is still there. And you can still find it if you choose to.
Yeah.
And the ego can never undo that. Try as it might, it can't obliterate the truth, because the truth is true. You would have no existence, no awareness, no life without your source. So there's no way it can obliterate that. It can only cover it over and do its hardest to deny it and repress it. And it does a pretty good job of that. But it's still there. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Which means that we can always awaken to it, fortunately. Doesn't matter how lost you think you are, that is still there, and you can still find your way back to it.
Yeah.
If you choose to. Normally we just, the majority of people need so much pain to do that. We need to really, the ego shell has to crack. Everything just needs to be like, I just really can't do this anymore. And only then do we start opening up to this deeper self. And he says it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to learn through pain. But the reality is most people do. Because if things are all going fairly well and okay in the dream, why would you change it? If your dream of being a separate self seems to be all right, then why would you go to all this great effort to find this intangible truth that you don't even know exists when your life in the ego is okay? You wouldn't do that, would you? It's only when it gets not okay, it's really not okay anymore, that you're gonna search. And so that's really the only purpose of suffering. From a spiritual perspective, the suffering is what's going to awaken you to who you are. That's its sole purpose. Because at some point, for everyone, it's going to be too much. You're going to go, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I've got to find another way. And that's when the spiritual journey really starts in earnest. Now, some people have a much higher tolerance for pain. Some people just go I'll completely crucify myself, totally. I'll get so depressed and so miserable, and I might do that lifetime after lifetime. There are people who do that. I think the awakened people of this world are okay, I'm just a bit more sensitive to the okay, it's not, I don't like the pain, I don't like this, and I'm willing to really look at it and be honest about its source and do something about it. That's the way of mastery. So okay, I don't have to be so badly suffering that my life is completely, I'm just in this terrible situation. Just the pain of any separation. Just okay, well, someone hasn't been very kind to me, or nice, or made a nasty remark, or someone has screwed me in business, or minor. For some people, that's too minor to make a change. If we're more sensitive, we go, no, that's not okay. I'm not willing to accept a reality where that kind of thing's going to happen all the time.
Yeah.
Which it does here. So there must be a place of perfect love and peace and joy where everything is safe and I can be peaceful and happy forever, for all eternity. There must be that, and I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to find that, because these slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Shakespeare put them, are not true. They're not, and they're not what I want forever. I can't stomach another round of this. It's a bit like a boxer, you just being beaten up, and it's okay, take a little break, refresh yourself, and then come back and take some more punishment. That's the cycle of birth and death. It's just around and around and around. And we've all done that. How many times? Repeatedly. Hundreds, thousands of times, who knows? You wouldn't be here if you hadn't done that hundreds of times already. You wouldn't be listening to this. I wouldn't be here speaking and teaching it if we hadn't journeyed this, gone through it, and gone no, something's wrong, right? Something's off. Something's really wrong with this whole system.
You just know that something's not right.
Wrong.
Yeah.
That's there's something wrong with the world, as Morpheus said to Neo. You know there's something wrong with the world,
Yeah.
but you can't put your finger on it. You can't say
Exactly.
what exactly is wrong with it
Yeah. Yeah.
because it all seems to be normal and real, and everyone's going along. And it's like, am I the only one who feels this way? That something's just off here, and
Yeah.
it's just wrong.
Yeah.
And everyone else seems to be, going along quite merrily. But the truth is that there's that wrongness in everyone's mind. Most people just cover it
Mm.
over
Yeah.
and just kind of find a way to carry on and go, well, okay, I'm not I don't know how to solve that, so I'll just focus on
Well, that's
the
why,
here and now of
yeah.
things.
That's why I always had that feeling of being a bit of a misfit, because I thought, am I the only one that's sort of, kind of
Mm,
has a sense of like things not being
mm.
right, or, there's got
But
to be more.
you and every other person who's ever awakened has had
Yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah.
So Yeshua would have had it, the Buddha would have had it, everyone would have been like, hang on, like something's off here. Am
Yeah.
I the only one who gets this?
Yeah.
And so you do feel like the outsider, like the
Mm.
anomaly, like am I
Mm.
the only crazy one? Because
Yeah.
you're actually questioning the insanity that goes on
Mm.
in an insane asylum, and everyone else goes, well, this is normal, this is sane. Like no, you're the one who's abnormal, you're the one who's weird and strange and abnormal and crazy. I mean, they'll often put people in psychiatric institutions when they're actually awakening. They call them crazy when they actually are starting to see the truth.
Yeah.
That's the insane thing about our systems. As soon as someone starts to free their mind from it, they're
Yeah.
like, oh no, you're on the spectrum. You're whatever, schizophrenic or bipolar, or
Mm.
okay, put you on some drugs and stop that.
Mm.
And actually, that person is starting to wake up and see it for what it really is.
Yeah. I always think of the
See that.
film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
Yeah,
where they,
great.
yeah, brilliant. And then they just give
Mm.
him a lobotomy. Yeah. But that was such a good film. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Mm.
was because these great movies, they make a point. There's a
Mm.
principle. They're teaching us something about how the world works,
Yeah.
and we can, if we see that truth, it can help us and it can inspire us
Mm.
in our own journey. So the sane person in the insane asylum is not welcome.
Yeah.
They're not considered sane and normal. In fact, they're considered dangerous and radical and a troublemaker. We need to suppress you, and we need to ultimately, maybe kill you. So it's happened before,
Mm.
many times in history, because this thought system does not want to be challenged,
Mm.
even though it's completely untrue. It's like, no, I'm the truth, and there's no other truth, and every anything else to the contrary it must just be obliterated. So all of the oppression and these regimes that just kill people because it all comes from the ego's fanatical, persistent insanity
Mm.
and just wanting to believe that it is true and it's the only truth.
Mm.
But clearly, there's another truth. Clearly, you can see that throughout the course of human history. You can just see it in yourself,
Mm.
just by taking a moment, going, okay, so what is aware?
Mm.
Well, what is aware right now?
Mm.
What gives me any life, any awareness?
Mm.
What is that? Just that question will take you to it. Well, there must be something. There must be a fundamental awareness, life source
Mm.
that's in me that gives me this awareness and this life.
Mm.
And maybe that's beyond the body, and maybe that's beyond anything that's immediately happening in this world.
Mm.
And people have done this throughout history. Just that self-reflection process tells you that there's something here, and I know it. Know thyself. I know it intuitively. No one can tell me that it's not there because I know it from my own experience.
Yeah.
So therefore, anything else must be false. This is where most people don't have the courage to say, okay, that is the truth. Everything else that denies it must be false, and then reject everything else, because that's rejecting their ego, in the world the ego made, and then they have to go up against the system and deny the system, and people think they're weird and strange, and so on. But thank goodness there have been people who've been willing to do that. Imagine the world without the Buddhas and the Yeshuas and so on of this world. And like, we'd be lost.
Yeah.
Who would show us the way out?
Yeah.
If no one ever stood up and said, no, this whole system is wrong.
Mm.
And I'm willing to stand and face the consequences of the system. Even if it costs me my life, I'll still teach the truth.
Mm.
So we just got to have huge gratitude for those who've walked the path before us.
Yeah.
And it brought this to us, sometimes at great cost. That this awareness of truth has survived through the ages. The fact that it has must be evidence that it exists, right?
Yeah.
If it didn't exist, how could it have survived through all the ages and have been this underlying perennial philosophy for all of human history? How could that be if it wasn't there and wasn't true?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's many ways that you can see that there is something and that it is true, and just start to live your life from that perspective, rather than from the insanity. And then life's okay, because you go, well, it's completely bonkers and insane. I'm in the insane asylum. I don't expect it to make sense. I don't expect anything from it because it's completely insane. So I'm just going to stay peaceful and calm and happy in my true self, and try and extend that to the world. And that's the best I can do in the insane asylum. Maybe I can wake a few people up in it, and we all break for freedom, and this is our last time in the insane asylum. And then that's what all the awakened beings of this world have done. They've gone, okay, I've woken up, so what else is there to do but try and wake other people up, as you saw in the movie with Cuckoo's Nest. It was the same thing. Jack Nicholson was like, okay, so just you're gonna awaken. Your only job is to awaken people in this.
Yeah.
In this dream, and help them free themselves from this very oppressive thought system of the ego. All right, so well, that's quite a deep dive into. We have been through this 3-tier structure: pseudo forgiveness, compassion forgiveness, radical forgiveness. But it's worth going through again. That's why I repeat it.
No,
Program,
definitely.
because it brings up these different paths, these different ways, and is another way to remind ourselves that, look, there's only one way that's going to work here. And that's this version of radical forgiveness that fortunately we are learning all the time. Every lesson is a lesson in radical forgiveness, which leads us quite nicely into our next lesson. So let's dive into that, shall we? Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. All right, so I will read the original. You read the alternative for the first one. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Hang on, let me just get the recording going. Just give me a moment so that I split them up. Is it useful? Do you listen to these recordings? Is it useful that I split them up?
I do actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, I haven't listened to every
segment, so that, because otherwise it would be one long 3 hours. So I just split it up so that okay, there's that component. If you want to start at and just do the lesson, then you can.
Yeah.
All right, so let me see forgiveness as it is.
I choose to perceive letting go as it really is.
Yeah. So really a nice lesson, because he's saying, okay, so let's just look at forgiveness and perceive forgiveness correctly. What does forgiveness actually mean? Well, we need to really be honest about that, because that clarifies what non-forgiveness is. There's always the juxtaposition of, okay, there's what's true and what's going to work with what isn't going to work, and he teaches us what's going to work by teaching us what's not going to work. So he says, let us review the meaning of forgive, for it is apt to be distorted and perceived as something that entails an unfair sacrifice of righteous wrath, a gift unjustified and undeserved, and a complete denial of the truth. In such a view, forgiveness must be seen as mere eccentric folly, and this course, sorry, I've just read 2. So yeah, just number 1.
Yeah. Let us review the meaning of forgive, for it is apt to be distorted and to be perceived as something that entails an unfair sacrifice of righteous wrath, a gift unjustified and undeserved, and a complete denial of the truth or abundance.
In such a view, forgiveness must be seen as mere eccentric folly, and this course appear to rest salvation on a whim.
In such a view, forgiveness or letting go must be perceived as merely eccentric folly, and this course appear to base awakening on a whim. So from the top, let us review the meaning of forgive, for it is apt to be distorted and to be perceived as something that entails an unfair sacrifice of righteous wrath, a gift unjustified and undeserved, and a complete denial of the truth or abundance. In such a view, forgiveness or letting go must be perceived as merely eccentric folly, and this course appear to base awakening on a whim. So what it's saying there, yeah, so what it's saying there is, it's important to review the meaning of forgive, because it is a term that is that can be distorted and to be perceived as something that it's not. And so forgiveness, must be perceived as merely eccentric folly. So it's something that isn't real.
Yeah, and this is what the ego wants us to do. Wants to say, well, you can't forgive this because it's really happened, and your wrath is justified, and you're actually just delusional. You're denying the truth. It's really happened. How can you forgive what's really happened? You're delusional. And you've probably experienced people who are like that. They're like, no, I can't. I can't forgive because this is outrageous and this has really happened. It's appalling, but they just keep themselves in the prison of that trauma by continuing to make it real in their minds. So this twisted view of what forgiveness means is easily corrected when you can accept the fact that pardon is not asked for what is true.
This twisted view of what letting go means is easily corrected when I accept the fact that letting go is not asked for what is true.
It must be limited to what is false.
It must be limited to what is false.
It is irrelevant to everything except illusions.
It is irrelevant to everything except illusions.
Truth is God's creation, and to pardon that is meaningless.
Truth or abundance is pure formless awareness of perfect love or abundance, and to let go of that is meaningless.
All truth belongs to Him, reflects His laws, and radiates His love.
All truth or abundance belongs to it, reflects its laws, and radiates its love or abundance.
Does this need pardon?
Does this need to be let go of?
How can you forgive the sinless and eternally benign?
How can I let go of the innocent and eternally benign?
So exactly your point is mentioned. Yeah. So if there's no sin, then why do you need to let go of anything?
Yeah.
You don't need to let go of love or abundance because it simply is. We just need to let go of what denies it. So if we denied truth, we must now deny that denial to get back to truth. Right? So it's a negative and a negative make a positive. Right?
Yeah.
You've negated the truth. Now you must negate the negation to get back to the truth, which is why mathematically, interestingly, that's why a negative and a negative makes a positive. I never understood why. When I was at school, I remember asking a teacher, why does a negative make a positive? I don't understand. She said, don't ask, I don't know. It just is what it is. Because she didn't know. It's like, well, that's just the laws of mathematics. I'm like, but now, like years later, I'm like, spiritually, that's true, because when you negate the negative, then you come back to the positive, then you come back to what's true.
That's true, yeah.
And that works mathematically as well as spiritually.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's this approach. You know, we are negating the negative. That's what forgiveness is. It's the denial of the negative. When you deny the denial of truth, then you get back to the truth.
Yeah.
That's the only way out. All right, so you want to read it from the top?
Mm-hmm. This twisted view of what letting go means is easily corrected when I accept the fact that letting go is not asked for what is true. It must be limited to what is false. It is irrelevant to everything except illusions. Truth or abundance is pure formless awareness of perfect love or abundance, and to let go of that is meaningless. All truth or abundance belongs to it, reflects its laws, and radiates its love or abundance. Does this need to be let go of? How can I let go of the innocent and eternally benign?
So he's saying here that this is where it's useful to understand the levels. So if we look at level 1, so that's anything in the blue boxes. That's level 1. That cannot be forgiven. It's meaningless to say you're going to forgive the truth because there's nothing to forgive. It just is. You can't let go of what's ultimately true. You can only let go of what's false. Logically. So you can only let go of the dream, of the illusion, of what's false, and that then reveals the truth to you. As you let go of the false, what must remain is then the truth. So it's the only way you're ever going to get to the truth. You can't create the truth. You can't make it up. You can just remove what blocks its awareness in your mind, and then the truth that was always there reveals itself. And that's the whole methodology. That's what any of these great spiritual teachings are ultimately teaching. The cutting away of the ego to reveal the true self, rather than, oh, I'm a dysfunctional self, but I'm going to become a better limited separate self. I'm going to become a better separate self, which is more in alignment with, say, the personal growth movement in the 20th century and continue on to the 21st. Like, I'm not quite good enough as I am, but it's okay because I'll grow. I'll use this technique, this practice, this teaching, whatever, to grow and become a better self, and I'm going to create a better life for the separate self. And both of those can't be true. You got to choose one or the other. Yes, you either somewhat dysfunctionally, learn and grow and become a better separate self, and that's the meaning of your life, or you're already whole, complete, and perfect, and you just cover that over with a bunch of false ideas about who you are, and the job in your life is to remove all those false ideas and reveal the truth of who you are. And it's got to be one or the other. You can't have both of those ideas being true. And then, of course, that creates a very different approach. If you believe that we just got to let go of the false and reveal the truth, then forgiveness becomes the method to do that, logically. If you believe that we're somewhat dysfunctional and we've got to go and create a better reality for ourselves and become better through our thoughts and our words and our accomplishments, then forgiveness doesn't make any sense in that context, does it? It's all about acquisition and acquiring and manifesting and creating something and doing stuff, and then forgiveness doesn't really have a place in that until of course you get tested and life's traumas come, and then you're like, well, now what do I do with that? Someone's died. I was really going along. I was creating my ideal life, and then like someone dies, or I die, or I get gets sick or something happens that's unexpected, and it puts a spanner in the works with that whole theory.
Mm.
It doesn't really sustain against the adversities of life.
Yeah.
As you know, as I learned through hard experience, I had my whole dream world figured out. I was going to be a world champion, and I'd like, right, I'm just going to go for that, and that's going to then create, you know, the life I want. And then after that, when I retire, become a motivational speaker. I had it all planned out, but none of that happened. Yeah, I didn't. I just failed miserably. It didn't happen. And so I was like, well, okay, so you know, am I just a complete loser? Did I just fail? Or maybe there was a problem with the teaching. You know, maybe that's not actually how life works. Fortunately, I went for the second option, because otherwise I would have just been depressed for the rest of my life. And that was very liberating. I was like, okay, so maybe I just didn't understand fully. You know, I thought that whole model of I'm a dysfunctional self, and then you're going to go and do something great, and then, you know, that's going to make your life happy and wonderful, and you're just going to be the, you know, the happiest person because you've done this amazing thing. That model wasn't true. That failed. And I'm very glad that I learned that at a young age. I learned it in my 20s rather than my 30s or 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
Because the sooner you learn that, the sooner you can move on from that. There's still people trying and struggling to make that paradigm work in the world. And it just doesn't work. You're going to hit its limitations. Even if you're successful to a point, you're going to hit the limitations of that thought system at some point. And then what do? You know, and that's usually when people go from the second lane, rajastic, into the third lane of sattva.
Yeah.
From doing go rajas to like, okay, I've got to start letting go and surrendering and letting go more. And even the likes of a Tony Robbins, who's probably one of the most rajastic individuals on the planet 20 years ago, has made that journey. You can see in his own understanding and teachings, and, you know, associations with people like Michael Singer and so on. It's like, okay, like maybe I've hit the limits of the rajastic thought system. There has to be another way, a gentler way to, you know, to start letting go more and surrendering more. Okay, so let's go back then to number 3. Moving on. Do you want to switch it? Do you want to read the original, the alternative? Up to you.
I can read the original. The major difficulty that you find in genuine forgiveness on your part is that you still believe you must forgive the truth and not illusions.
The major difficulty that I find in genuine letting go on my part is that I still believe I must let go of the truth or abundance and not illusions.
You conceive of pardon as a vain attempt to look past what is there, to overlook the truth, in an unfounded effort to deceive yourself by making an illusion true.
I conceive of letting go as a vain attempt to look past. Let me change that to overlook. Might be better. To overlook what is there. Oh, no, sorry, I already had overlook there, so it's not going to work. To look past what is there and to overlook the truth or abundance in an unfounded effort to deceive myself by making an illusion true.
This twisted viewpoint but reflects the hold that the idea of sin retains as yet upon your mind as you regard yourself.
So this twisted viewpoint, that distorted viewpoint, distorted perspective, maybe.
Yeah.
Distorted perspective reflects only the strength that the idea of sin still retains in my awareness as I perceive myself. Okay, I'm going to read the alternative.
Oh, shall I
From
read
the
it?
top?
Yeah. The major difficulty that I find in genuine letting go on my part is that I still believe I must let go of the truth or abundance and not illusions. I conceive of letting go as a vain attempt to look past what is there and to overlook the truth or abundance in an unfounded effort to deceive myself by making an illusion true. This distorted perspective reflects only the strength that the idea of sin still retains in my awareness as I perceive myself.
Okay, so what's he saying there?
Yes, so the difficulty I still have with forgiveness or letting go is that I still, is that I still believe that, that it's genuine, that there is something to let go of, that's real, but that actually is an illusion.
I think I'm kidding myself. I think like you
Yeah,
deluded idiot. How can you say the world's not real? Like,
yeah,
are you completely cooked? Are you mad? Clearly the world's real. Come on, like, seriously. And so the ego tries to get us to believe in the reality of the world because, of course, it means we can't forgive it.
mm,
Forgiveness means that you have to question and then ultimately deny the reality of the world, which is the whole point, right? The world was made up as the illusion to distract us from the truth. So, yes, of course, you have to deny it eventually.
yeah,
But that's the process. As these things show up in our dream and they trigger us and we feel upset and angry and all these emotions, then you get the choice to deny it and reverse that original choice you made to believe in it, which then miscreated the whole dream. So you see how forgiveness is undoing this whole belief system slowly, but systematically. The more you forgive, you are undoing this whole idea that you are a separate self and that separation is true and real.
yeah,
But you've got to do it instance by instance, moment by moment. Very difficult to do it all at once. So the
yeah,
forgiveness lessons we get is another opportunity to practice this thought system, to let go of the illusion, to accept the truth, and you can do it in that particular instance, in that situation. And then we learn to ultimately transfer that to all situations. That's what Yeshua calls full transfer of training, no exceptions. Okay, this truth applies always because it's always true. So I might be able to do it more easily, let's say, with a minor issue, someone's cut me off in traffic, I might have a handle on that. But my special relationship, my partner still pushes my buttons incredibly, and I still get really triggered. So I have to learn to do it across the board. It doesn't matter what the situation is, because an illusion is an illusion is an illusion. It doesn't matter whether it's my wife or husband treating me badly, or someone cutting me off in traffic, or Donald Trump on the news saying he's going to invade somewhere else. It doesn't matter. It's an illusion is an illusion is illusion, right? There's no order of difficulty in miracles because there's no hierarchy of those illusions. They are all simply unreal. And that's the thought system that he's trying to teach us. To just see it all as the same. It's all unreal. These are all just images in a dream. The whole thing's unreal. It doesn't matter how serious the image seems to be, what seems to have happened. It's just all in the same unreality. It's all illusion. It's all just part of the dream. And that's what we've got to learn to perceive and to understand. And then forgiveness is automatic. Once you have that understanding, you will let it go. She's like, well, it's just a dream. Why am I making such a big deal of it? Like, if I really get that. Forgiveness becomes automatic. It's like, well, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. I get it. But the problem is the mind wants you to believe that it means something. And so there's the struggle. Oh, forgiveness doesn't really mean anything. And then, something comes along, you're like, no, that really does mean something to me. That's really got under my skin. I'm really annoyed. I'm really upset. It's like, well, why? Why are you upset when it doesn't mean anything? When it's just a part of a dream. Well, because I want the dream to be real. That's the ego's. That's essentially the ego's answer. You're upset because you want it to be real. So once we can see through what the ego's doing, you could just kind of laugh. It's quite amusing actually what it's trying to do.
Mm.
Always trying to hook you in to making the dream real, so that its separate identity can be protected. That's the game that's always going on. And if you're going to play the game right with the Holy Spirit, you just got to say, nah, I'm just not. I'm not falling for the bait. I'm not doing that anymore because
Yeah.
that's just pointless.
Yeah.
But it requires a lot, and especially initially, it requires a lot of mental discipline to do that.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be tempted and just go, okay,
Yeah. And just get
I'll
sucked
just
back
go with
in.
that, and like I'll
Yeah.
because your ego wants that. Your ego's like, great, now we
Yeah.
got you back, and you're in grievance, and you're upset, and you've got every justification for that, and it just loves it, and it's going to juice it. It's going to work that situation for all it's worth. And then it'll bring something else. Like, oh, great, that one worked. So let's give you another one. Let's give you another reason for a grievance. Boom. And along it comes. And then if you fall in for the trap once, the likelihood is you'll fall for it again, won't you? You'll do
Yeah.
it again and again and again. And the ego's loving all of this, but in the meantime, you're getting more and more disconnected from your true self and from reality, and you're feeling more and more miserable and upset and alone and afraid, and it all becomes, very, very dark the more you do that.
Mm.
So we have to learn to resist it, say, no,
Mm.
no, I'm not going there. I'm not taking the bait.
Mm.
All right. So because you think your sins are real, you look on pardon as deception.
Because I think my sins are real, I perceive pardon as deception.
For it is impossible to think of sin as true and not believe forgiveness is a lie.
For it is impossible to think of sin as true and not believe letting go is a lie.
Thus is forgiveness really but a sin, like all the rest.
So letting go is really just a sin like all the rest.
Make this therefore, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It says the truth is false and smiles on the corrupt as if they were as blameless as the grass, as white as snow.
It says the truth or abundance is false and smiles on the corrupt as if they were as blameless as the grass and as white as snow.
It is delusional in what it thinks it can accomplish.
It is delusional in what it thinks it can accomplish.
It would see as right the plainly wrong, the loathsome as the good.
It perceives the plainly wrong as right and the loathsome as good.
From the top,
Because I think my sins are real, I perceive pardon as deception. For it is impossible to think of sin as true and not believe letting go is a lie. Therefore, letting go is really just a sin like all the rest. It says the truth or abundance is false and smiles on the corrupt as if they were as blameless as the grass and as white as snow. It is delusional in what it thinks it can accomplish. It perceives the plainly wrong as right and the loathsome as good.
okay. What's he saying there? Summary.
Yeah. So because I think, my sins are real, so whatever I do, I perceive as wrong, I think is real, then I, perceive letting go as also real, as a deception. Because the two go
Yeah, you see the connection. If I make my sins real, i.e., my false self concept that thinks that it's done these things, that's a sinner, that it's guilty, then I can't let go of that because this is all real. It's my
Mm,
true self, and my sins are real. And so letting go must be a deception.
mm,
Which is why the ego and the Holy Spirit can never agree.
mm.
The ego says this is all self-deception and you're deluded, and the Holy Spirit says no. In fact, ego, you're deluded
Yeah,
because you're believing in a false self and false reality that
yeah,
was never true. And
yeah.
they will never agree. They're completely at odds. They're completely opposite.
Mm,
Those two thought systems will always be at odds, which explains why there's so much conflict in this world.
mm.
And they're just complete polar opposites, and they will never agree. So you can't go, oh, well, we'll just agree to disagree and get along.
Mm.
Like they just don't agree. They're going to tell you to do opposite things. The way that you think, the way that you believe, the way that you behave, everything is going to be contrary to the other way.
Mm.
So they never agree. And you simply have to make a choice between one or the other.
Mm.
That's what he's saying. It doesn't mean that the world is suddenly going to change, as we discussed. Suddenly, oh, all the egoic systems are just going to collapse because you've made the right choice.
Mm.
No, those will continue, but you don't have to let them affect you. You don't have to participate them. You don't have to believe in them. You can just let them go in your own mind and go, I see through the lie of this.
Yeah.
And the people who believe in those will say you're delusional. Have you noticed that? If you talk to someone who's very materialistic, rooted in the physical world, you talk to them about these ideas and say the world is an illusion. They'll go, what?
Yeah,
But what are you talking about? It's delusional.
I know, they'll call you crazy.
Weird, strange, delusional,
Yeah,
crazy. Like, how could say the world's not real? Like, oh, away with the fairies,
yeah,
crazy,
yeah.
etc. Because it denies their whole reality. That idea is so dangerous to the separate self's whole reality that it has to just reject it outright
Yeah.
until it suffers enough.
Mm.
And then maybe that person might go, oh, you know what? Maybe that crazy person had a point, because they did seem to be quite peaceful, actually. It's sort of quite light and free, and I'm anything but. I'm really struggling and suffering. So, okay, maybe there's something to that. Maybe I should go and explore that and open my mind a bit to this idea. And generally, only pain and suffering will do that, because if everything's going hunky dory, why would you?
Mm.
Why would you go through all of that? Now I've got to totally rethink my entire reality, my entire existence. Why would I go through all that pain if my life is okay? I wouldn't. I'm just going to carry on as it is until it's not okay. So that's the value of pain and suffering in this world. Is what's going to awaken us out of thinking that the ego is okay.
Mm.
Because when we suffer enough, we go, no, it's really not okay, and it's clearly not working for me anymore.
Mm.
So what am I going to do about it? And that's when the spiritual journey starts. All right. So there's a slide there. If you want to read those little thoughts from the last couple of paragraphs.
Yeah. So, should I accuse myself of doing this? The thoughts you hold are mighty, and illusions are as strong in their effects as is the truth. And what you behold upon the world are your wishes acted out, so you can look on them and think them real. Because you think your sins are real, you look on pardon as deception.
Yeah. So your wishes
Yeah.
acted out. The world just is a reflection of your mind. That's what we've got to learn. It's a mirror that shows you what's going on in your mind. So someone seems to be behaving unkindly, attacking you. Well, that's you attacking yourself
Mm.
through them. That's how it works.
Mm.
So you want to attack them back, you're just attacking yourself.
Mm.
Once we start realizing this, then the ego's game is up.
Mm.
But again, it's difficult. It's difficult to do. Seemingly difficult to do. But then funny, it says this lesson is not difficult to learn. If you remember, in your brother you see but yourself. If he be lost in sin, so must you be. You see light in him, your sins have been forgiven by yourself. As you judge him, so you judge yourself. It's completely logical, because you're gonna feel that effect of that judgment immediately in your own mind. You judge him, you're gonna feel that immediately as a thought, emotion, state of mind in your own mind. And that is going to disconnect you from who you really are and from the other person. And you experience that immediately, you judge.
Mm.
So who's really suffering then?
Yeah.
You or him?
Mm.
Again, it's so obvious, so common sense. Well, obviously it's me because I'm experiencing the immediate effects of my judgment in my own experience.
Yeah.
And my judgment clearly has no effect on that other person. They may be unaware of it.
Mm.
And the ego says, well, make them aware of it. Do something, say something, do something to make them aware of it.
Mm.
Because it wants to manifest itself and make itself real. But that just entrenches it and makes you suffer even more. Because let's say you do go and do say something hurtful, or worse, you hurt them physically, then you suffer again because now who's experiencing the pain of separation and the guilt at having done that? You are.
Yeah.
So this should be absolute common sense, and yet it's not really in the world, is it?
Mm.
If everyone understood this, there'd be no conflict, there'd be no war. All of that would stop because it's like, well, I'm just hurting myself.
Mm.
So that's just delusional. Why am I going to war with myself?
Mm.
But the ego does very well convincing us that no, that is actually another person or another country or someone other than me. And so it's okay if I have a go at them. I'm not attacking myself. All right. So pardon is no escape in such a view.
Pardon is no escape in such a view.
It merely is a further sign that sin is unforgivable, at best to be condemned or called another name, for pardon is a treachery to truth.
It is merely a further sign that sin is permanent and cannot be let go of, at best to be concealed, denied, or called by another name, for letting go is a treachery to truth or abundance.
Guilt cannot be forgiven.
Guilt cannot be released.
If you sin, your guilt is everlasting.
If I sin, my guilt is everlasting.
Should we say permanent?
Yeah.
My guilt is permanent. Those who are forgiven from the view their sins are real are pitifully mocked and twice condemned, first by themselves, what they think they did, and once again by those who pardon them.
Those who have let go of the perception that their sins are real are pitifully mocked and twice condemned, first by themselves for what they think they did, and once again by those who supposedly forgive them. So shall we
Okay, from the
read
top?
Yeah, pardon is no escape in such a view. It is merely a further sign that sin is permanent and cannot be let go of, at best to be concealed, denied, or called by another name, for letting go is a treachery to truth or abundance. Guilt cannot be released. If I sin, my guilt is permanent. Those who have let go of the perception that their sins are real are pitifully mocked and twice condemned, first by themselves for what they think they did, and once again by those who supposedly forgive them.
Okay, so what's he saying there in summary?
That if you think you've sinned, that's your guilt is permanent. And those that have let go of the perception that they've sinned are actually, kind of mocked. It's like you were saying earlier that, people will say that's not real. How can you
Yeah,
say that?
you're
But
delusional.
yeah, first by themselves, what they think they did, and once again by those who supposedly, have forgiven them.
Hmm. Remember the response of the Pharisees and the Sadducees to what Yeshua said. So it's recorded. He said, "Well, so the Son of Man has come on earth, and he has the power to forgive sins." And they were like, "Blasphemy! You can't say that. No one has the power to forgive sins. Only God can do that."
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had a real problem with accepting it, because if they accepted that everyone was innocent, then the entire ecosystem they believed in would simply fall away, and their power, their control over people would go. You see, the power of these religious institutions is that somehow we will help you mitigate, but not completely undo the effects of sin. So come to us, come to the synagogue or the church or the mosque and pray and do your things, and we'll make you feel a bit better, but you're not completely forgiven of your sin. So you need to keep coming back to do some kind of penance. In the Catholic Church, they made it into a ritual of the confession. You need to keep coming back to do this so that we remain in business. Because if we tell you that you're completely innocent and you're forgiven, then what's our function anymore?
I was going to say we're out of a job.
What do we have to do?
Yeah.
We don't need to. You don't need to come and confess your sins if you're innocent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then that whole ritual just goes away. And in fact, if someone knows they're innocent and in fact that they're the Christ, why do they need to come to church to listen to someone tell them what they already know?
Yeah.
You see, the whole thing becomes a bit ridiculous. It's like, well, I don't need to listen to them, some authority figure who seemingly knows more than me when I already know who I am.
Yeah.
That's like pointless. Which is why enlightened beings are the greatest threat to religious institutions, because they just like, I don't need it anymore. I don't need your ministry. I don't need your teachings. I don't need your intervention. I don't need you to be between me and God, because I have direct knowledge that I am God. Again, that was the greatest bless. That's actually what Yeshua crucified, along with his turning up of the tables. That probably also did quite a lot of damage. But in the temple, he went and he said, I am what I am. I'm one with God. And they said, blasphemy. Who are you to say that? You can't say you're one with God. And, he wouldn't back down. He was like, no, because, that's the truth. We all are. And they're like, well, then you must die, because you have egregiously insulted our egoic thought system, and the punishment for that must be death, because that's all the ego knows. So we saw it play out very much in his interactions with those Pharisees and Sadducees, who represented this egoic system of sin and guilt, and they couldn't let go of that. He came along and said, no, actually, it's all rubbish. You can just let go of this guilt, and you can be free, and you don't deserve to be punished. And they thought he was blaspheming, because their God is the God of sin and guilt. Their God is the false God, this God. Go back to our diagram. Their God is this God, the God of the ego, the separate self, the belief in separation, universal mind. That's the God that they worshipped, the God of separation. If you really look at the whole of the Old Testament, you see that is God. That's mostly, with a few rare exceptions, such as in Exodus. I mentioned that quote. Have I done it in the program? I will do. When Moses had that experience of the burning bush, and this presence says, go and liberate your people from Egypt. And he's like, okay, so who are you? Who should I tell? Who should I say sent me? Because I've been instructed. And this presence says, I am what I am, or I am that I am. It was said in Hebrew, so translation it can be I am what I am, or I am that I am. But that's the truth. Just this pure presence of I amness. But that largely that wasn't then what became God in the Hebrew religion. It was other, they called it various things, Yahweh and Jehovah and so on. But all of that actually was false. The I am that spoke to him was a direct experience of the truth, a mystic experience that gave him the direct access to, okay, this is what it is. It's the pure presence of being, of I am, that is speaking, that says you're not bound by the sin and the guilt, and you're not bound into slavery and punishment. That these things are not of God. So let them go, lay them aside, cast them off, and just walk out. They literally eventually just walked out of Egypt. The Egyptians couldn't stop them. Okay, so let's go to number 6 then. You want to read the original or the alternative?
It is sin's unreality that makes forgiveness natural and wholly sane, a deep relief to those who offer it, a quiet blessing where it is received.
It is sin's unreality that makes letting go natural and wholly sane, a deep relief to me when I offer it, a quiet blessing when it is received.
It does not countenance illusions, but collects them lightly with a little laugh and gently lays them at the feet of truth.
It does not countenance illusions, but collects them. Does not make illusions real, but collects them lightly with a little laugh and gently lets them go at the feet of truth or abundance.
And there they disappear entirely.
And there they disappear entirely. Okay, I'm going to read the alternative.
It is sin's unreality that makes letting go natural and wholly sane, a deep relief to me when I offer it, a quiet blessing when I receive it. It does not make illusions real, but collects them lightly with a little laugh and gently lets them go at the feet of truth or abundance. And there they disappear entirely.
And what's he saying there in summary?
When I see that sins are unreal, then kind of like it makes letting go really really easy, and I can do that do that lightly and with a little I do like the little laugh bit gently just let them go at the feet of truth.
Well, you have to kind of laugh at the joke of it. This is
Yeah.
why the Zen says enlightenment's a joke. It's like, well, what a ridiculous joke we've played on ourselves. That we thought all of this was real and that it really mattered, and all this pain and suffering and drama and trauma that goes on. It's like, it's just a dream, a nightmare. Just wake up.
Mm.
And when you're ready to do that, it will disappear entirely. Now that on a physical level is going to happen straight away. As Einstein said, the world is merely an obstacle to consciousness, albeit a very persistent one. It's very persistent. It's not just going to go away. You are literally jacked into the matrix. You have all the equipment in this body to continue perceiving it. That's the way the illusion's set up. But how you perceive it is up to you. The choice that you make about those sense perceptions and how you're going to interpret them, that's entirely up to you. And that's where this mind training comes to say. Forgiveness comes in to say you don't have to perceive them in the same way. You can perceive them through the forgiveness or letting go, so that the world doesn't affect you anymore. So that you can just walk lightly through it, realizing that it's just a dream. God, it's just a dream. None of these appearances are real or mean anything. Nothing I see means anything. Lesson number 1. If we could only learn that first lesson, wouldn't it be amazing? If you just learn that, you wouldn't need the rest of the course. Nothing I see means anything. Okay, if I really get that, then forgiveness is done. I'm not going to give it any meaning anymore. And the problem comes in because we do give it meaning.
Yeah.
All of your upsets and your grievances, because you've given something that has no meaning in your mind and in your life, and then it affects you.
Yeah, but that's because we're looking for meaning, aren't we? That's the thing. So then we just find meaning.
The ego's desperate to make it to make it mean something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that then defines you as a separate self to whom this has been done, to whom the offense has been committed.
Mm.
You see how it works.
Mm.
I must be a separate self because this offense is real, because the sin is real. So I must then be a identity named, separate identity named. Sin stands for in this separate identity named. There you see.
Mm.
So you see how it's all bound up. The sin and the guilt are essential to maintain the illusion of a separate identity.
Yeah.
Without those, it'd be no separate identity. And then who would you be? Well, you'd just be pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Mm.
No separate identity, no name, no form, no, the ego values. All of that just disappears.
So this kind of like need for meaning then, Jonathan, is that an egoic thing then? This need for meaning? Is that, or is there not a sort of a spiritual dimension to that?
Well, it's both. The Holy Spirit gives us
Yeah.
another meaning, deeper meaning.
Yeah.
So the conflict really is about what does anything mean,
Mm.
and who is going to be your guide in interpreting the world for you in a way that's meaningful.
Mm.
The Holy Spirit is saying there is a meaning beyond this world.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit's saying none of the illusions are true; they're all meaningless. The only thing that's meaningful is God, truth, oneness,
Yeah.
love. That's the whole meaning.
Yeah.
So remember that when you're facing all the meaningless illusions that the ego's made up.
Yeah.
The ego says, no, these are very meaningful. These have great meaning and importance and purpose.
Mm.
And the truth has no meaning at all. That doesn't even exist.
Mm.
Only my projections exist because only I exist as a separate identity, as a belief in separation. And then that obviously has to just fragment and create all these separate identities. So the split of meaning is the split in the mind. What meaning does the world have? The ego says this is meaning, this is reality, right? It has a meaning, it has a point, it has a purpose.
Mm.
The Holy Spirit says no, it doesn't. It's just a bad dream.
Mm.
The meaning of it is the meaning you gave it and nothing more.
Mm.
It has no absolute eternal meaning at all. It's a made up dream. And the only purpose of it is to convince you that you're a separate self.
Mm.
And so that all these separate self emotions, thoughts, and all of the experiences of limitation, lack, loneliness, suffering, and death are real. That's the ego's only purpose behind it. Which is why in the first 15 lessons of the course, most of them are about meaning.
Mm.
He's focusing on that from lesson one. Nothing I see means anything.
Yeah.
Because that's where the split occurs.
Yeah.
What meaning do you give it?
Mm.
He has to go for the meaning that you give it in order to awaken you from the dream. If you continue to give it the meaning that you've always given it, the ego's meaning, you're never going to wake up. It's as simple as that. You have to change your perception of meaning as the first part of your awakening and the end of it. Once you realize that it has no meaning, why would you believe it anymore? Why would you give it any thought, any meaning, any reality in your mind? Why would you if it doesn't mean anything?
Mm.
So he's got to convince us that everything that the ego has created has no meaning.
Mm.
And only this intangible presence, essence, which we can't even see, feel, taste, or touch, only that has meaning. That's quite a convincing job to do.
Yeah.
So you're telling me everything that I see around me, see, feel, touch, taste, perceive, everything that I think is real has no meaning at all. And this completely intangible presence, essence, which I'm not even aware of most of the time, that's the only meaning of my life.
Mm.
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying.
Mm.
Because that essence is your life. That's where you really exist. That's your true awareness. That's life. That's being.
Mm.
You've just forgotten it, and you've covered it over, and you've denied it, and you've created all these false meanings in the world as part of that process. So that's why, as within, so without, right? We tell ourselves a lie in our minds, and then we project that out, and we create a world that's meaningless based on it. And that's why it's illusion, the veil of illusion that covers over the truth. So can you see how the mind and what the mind has done then plays out in the world? And how the illusion of a separate world is a product of that mental, emotional process.
Yeah.
As within, so without. So the illusion must start in your own mind, and that's obviously where he's got to address it. He's saying, look, we can't change terribly much in this external world because it's a very fixed projection. But you can absolutely change the meaning that you give it. Seek not to change the world, but seek to change your mind about the world. Because as soon as you do that, you move back into truth, and it ceases to have the power that you gave it over you, and free of it. Even while you continue in a human life, none of the thought system then needs to affect you. If you choose for it not to. So it's brilliant. I mean, when I look at this, I'm like, wow, you've actually got a complete theory of the mind here, you've got a complete theory of how the mind has created the world. Because you understand that, you've got a way out of it.
Yeah.
If you don't understand how you got into it, you can't understand how you're going to get out of it, can you?
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important to understand the origins. Okay, so how did this all originate? Where did it all come from then? And most mythologies, religions, they don't do a very good job of that at all.
No.
There's a big missing chunk.
Yeah.
God created the world, it's like, okay, so where did that, and why? The question is why? Why would God create a separate world? Why would that happen? Well, we can't really answer that. Why would a loving God create a world of so much pain and misery and suffering for his children to go and live on? Like, why would he do that when they could just be in heaven? Why? Can't really, well, it's a mystery. We don't really know. So they call it a mystery. No, it just means you don't know the answer because you haven't gone deep enough into the truth to discover the answer. People like Yeshua did, and they went, well, if you go deep enough, the answer becomes obvious. It's not of God. It's got nothing to do with God. This is all just a crazy, mad idea that you had that you were somehow separate from God, and then the world is a result of this, a crazy delusion, which you simply need to wake up from. But that collapses the entire dream. Done, over. And all the institutions of the ego simply, are pointless and meaningless. They don't mean anything. Just like the world and the thought system that made them.
So whose mind was it then that decided to separate?
Everyone always asks that question.
Oh, do they? Oh,
everyone. Yeah, that's normal. So I'm going to let Yeshua answer it.
Yeah.
It happens. Everyone who's ever done this course seriously has always asked that question. So this is in the clarification of terms. Introduction. Yeah. So read number 4. Paragraph 4.
Yeah. The ego will demand many answers that this course does not give. It does not recognize as questions the mere form of a question to which an answer is impossible. The ego may ask, how did the impossible occur? To what did the impossible happen?
Who thought this? Same question, right?
Yeah, and may ask.
Who had the idea of separation?
Yeah, and may ask this in many forms.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The
there
form
is
of this
no
question.
answer. only an experience. Seek only this, and do not let theology delay you. Okay, I get the answer.
Yeah. So the Buddha answered a similar question in this way. So this guy answered him some metaphysical, theoretical question, and what he said is, if someone shoots an arrow into your side, are you going to ask about the origin of the arrow? What kind of wood it was made with, what kind of metal the tip was made with, where it came from, when it was made? No, you're going to answer. You're not going to. And the person he was teaching said, no, master, I'm not going to ask any of that. What are you going to do? I'm going to pull it out. Exactly.
Yeah.
Pull it out.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
It's not real. So
yeah.
The problem with this sort of theoretical prognostication is it actually is an ego device for keeping you from doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
Which is just letting it go as and when it arises and in your experience.
Yeah. So it's just
and then let it.
Yeah.
Yeah, accepting that ultimately
yeah.
that this is true. There needs to be an acceptance of, and the ego says, "Well, prove it." Well, there is no proof. You can't prove this because we're talking about philosophy. We're talking about ideas in mind. You accept it or you don't accept it. In the end, it comes down to belief and faith. But it does make sense. Like, this is the only thought system teaching philosophy that actually makes any sense.
Yeah.
Where there aren't internal contradictions, and where you can actually see, okay, this does make logical sense. It's internally consistent. It's not contradicting itself, and it works. And if I actually apply it, I can see how it actually works. And yes, it does work to help me to live a better life and be happier and more peaceful and less stressed. And there's no doubt. So, okay, surely my experience should tell me that this is true.
Yeah.
There is no answer theoretically. There's only an experience in the end. So the more that you do this, the more that you practice this, the more your experience tells you, yes, I'm on the right track. Because I'm feeling that peace. I'm feeling the peace of God that surpasses all understanding more and more. I'm feeling that I'm on the right track. I'm finally feeling that I'm getting it. That, I'm waking up from this dream. It's making sense to me. Seek only this experience and do not let theology delay you.
Yeah.
Because if you get caught up in that question, you could get caught up in that question for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And this is where intellectuals, academics, and so on, theologians struggle, because they get caught up in the intellectual questions rather than in the experience that forgiveness will bring them if they actually do it.
Yeah.
That's why Yeshua said, well, just do my words. Those who do my words will be like the person who's built their house on rock, and will live on the solid foundation of truth. And those who don't do my words, i.e., they don't apply it, they question, they doubt, well, is this true? I want more proof. They'd be like they're building their house on the sand. And when the storms come and the winds come, and in other words, the adversities of life come, your thought system won't sustain because you haven't actually learned how to practice forgiveness.
Yeah.
So that's the answer. Just remember that when the ego gets too theoretical and starts asking, well, to whom did this happen? Then just go back to, remember, it's just a dream. It didn't really happen. That's the whole point. None of this really happened. You're living in you're in a dream right now. The dream isn't true. It never really happened.
Yeah.
We're just trying to awaken from what never really happened.
Yeah.
And you got to sort of laugh a bit at the predicament we put ourselves in.
Yeah.
No wonder it's difficult, because you think it's happened, and now you've got to convince yourself that it didn't happen. But there is a way to do that. There is a way out of this, because there is a way into it. Because we thought this idea of separation, we went down the ladder. There's a way to reverse all of that. There must be a way to reverse all of that because it's not ultimately true. So just climb back up the ladder, reverse that thought system, and you'll get back to the truth. And so that's simply the denial of everything that the ego is, and everything that it thinks, and everything that it believes, and everything that it does. Every value you hold here must be denied and undone to return yourself back to that original state in which the ego simply doesn't exist. It's an undertaking. I mean, this is like, whoa. Like when you get an idea of just how big this is, part of you can feel daunted. And you're like, oh my God, am I ever going to do this? Am I ever going to manage this? This seems like an impossible task. But that's exactly why you need the Holy Spirit. You're not doing this on your own. You're doing it with this remembrance of perfect love. That's job is to show you the way home. That's what it's here to do. And that has been there, since the first moment of separation. Since you first chose to deny the truth, the remembrance was there to remind you of the truth. From the first moment of the split, the Holy Spirit came into being as a memory of that which you forgot, which you chose to forget. So now psychologically, the Holy Trinity makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Because you go and you say, okay, so the Holy Spirit isn't an entity that was created; it's the memory of that which we forgot, which only came into any kind of use or need or function when we forgot the truth. Then we needed to remember the truth. Once we've fully remembered the truth, we won't need to remember it anymore because we will simply be in the truth. We will simply be that truth. But as long as we've forgotten it and that veil of illusion of forgetting is there, we need to remember it. And so the Holy Spirit has a function in time to help us remember and find our way back to that which is beyond all illusion. And then we don't need to remember it. So ultimately, the Holy Spirit, the true self or the Christ, those are just constructs of an illusion. They're not necessary in ultimate truth. There's just God, there's just pure awareness. But they're very, very useful in the dream to help us get back to our real state. We need to remember the truth continuously while we're in the dream in order to eventually get back to that ultimate truth and just rest in that, rest in God. So there you have, the truth about the Holy Trinity. It's an operating system for your mind and for your life to wake you up. It's not the ultimate truth. It's just an illusion, but it's a very useful illusion. Okay. Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Good. So remember, if that question comes again, refer to clarification of terms, introduction, paragraph 4. There's the answer. I'd wonder, John, you've never really met. Well, hopefully next year you will meet John. He asked this question so many times, and every time I go back to well, because it's the mind. It's the mind going, okay, but I'm not getting it. So, like, who did this happen to?
Like,
who thought the thought of separation is not real? But then, of course, what you're doing is you're making the thought of separation real in that process, you see?
Well, no, I said earlier that I was the kid that, I told you, before that I was the kid that, like, oh my God, any parent would just despair with the number of questions. I was always asking questions.
You ask these questions, and I can't actually answer that because you're going beyond my knowledge. I don't know how to answer it. So I just tell you to shut up or read. There we go. The answer's in the Bible. Read or whatever. But because it's a difficult question to answer. They would have had to go through this whole philosophical journey themselves to be able to answer it, and most people haven't, so they can't really answer it. It all seems to be a a mystery. I'm just so grateful for this course that finally you have a theory like this that explains everything.
Absolutely. No, I'm
Okay,
so
there it is.
grateful as well, actually, Jonathan. I really,
Finally, everything's there.
yeah.
It's in one theory. It makes sense. I understand now why the world is the way it is, why it came into apparent existence. I understand the way out. Okay, I've got a thought system now that is true, that can guide me and isn't going to let me down. Because when you don't have that, oh my goodness, you're all at sea.
Oh,
Life
yeah.
is so
Yeah.
stressful. We know, we've all been there. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I thought I could rely on that, but
Yeah.
carpet's just been, rugs just been pulled from out under me.
Yes.
I'm now, falling flat on my face again, and I'm like trying to figure it out, and like so frustrating. It's like what am I missing here? What am I not getting?
Exactly.
Now that's been an experience of every seeker probably throughout history. It's like just I mean, think of what the Buddha went through. There's the classic seeker. Like I'm so determined. I'm going to literally die in order to awaken, and still not getting it. So frustrating.
Yeah.
And only when he finally let go of all of that seeking and striving and just went, Harold, I'm like so done. I'm so exhausted with all this. I just sat under this tree and went, done. Finished. Enough. I'm done with the asceticism, like that's actually when it happened. When he's like, okay, it's when you just like so done with the ego and you just let go of all of that. The construct of the mind. He was there. He was the ego self trying to find awakening. And the harder it tried, the less likely it was ever to awaken. Because the ego can't awaken. That's the whole point. So trying harder as an ego self isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But eventually, because of all that effort, eventually there was enough pain and suffering to crack the shell of that egoic construct of like, okay, the harder I try, the better. And eventually he just saw the truth. But he had to go to like literally almost the point of death to do that. So these are the like, just thank God someone's gone to that extreme.
Yeah.
To learn that lesson and then can bring it to us. And like, thank God we don't have to all go through that very painful lesson.
Yeah.
But he had to go through. You can just learn from it and say, okay, I get it. All right, thank you for having gone through that experience for all of us so that you can teach us so that we don't have to necessarily go through the experience ourselves personally. We can just, learn from your teaching. Yeshua did the same thing with the crucifixion. Okay, I'm going to go through this horrendous experience so that you can learn from my experience. You don't have to repeat that. So why wouldn't you want to learn from someone who's gone through that? Like, surely that would be the logical thing to do. Like someone who's gone to such extremes to learn the truth. Surely you would want to learn from those people rather than have to go and replicate it and do it yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. Look, you don't have to go crucify yourself. I did that for you. I went through that experience. You just have to learn from my experience. And actually it can be quite easy. It doesn't have to be so hard. You could just, learn these principles and apply them and start systematically and progressively letting go of your own illusions as they come up. You don't have to go to the same extremes as he did or the Buddha went or other people went, but they were the pioneers. They were really trailblazers in this awakening process.
Yeah.
Which we just got to be really, really, grateful for. And still 2,500 years later, that example is as relevant as ever because awakening is the eternal hero's journey that we're all on.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back to number 8. Strength of pardon is its honesty, which is so uncorrupted that it sees illusions as illusions, not as truth.
The strength of letting go is its honesty, which is so uncorrupted that it perceives illusions as illusions, not as truth or abundance.
It is because of this that it becomes the undeceiver in the face of lies, the great restorer of the simple truth.
It is because of this that it becomes the undeceiver in the face of lies and the great restorer of the simple truth or abundance.
By its ability to overlook what is not there, it opens up the way to truth, which has been blocked by dreams of guilt.
It opens up the way to truth or abundance by its ability to overlook what is not there, which has been blocked by dreams of guilt.
Now are you free to follow in the way your true forgiveness opens up to you.
Now I am free to follow in the way my true letting go opens up to me.
For if one brother has received this gift of you, the door is open to yourself.
For if one companion has received this gift from me, I have opened the door to myself. So from the top, the strength of letting go is its honesty, which is so uncorrupted that it perceives illusions as illusions, not as truth or abundance. It is because of this that it becomes the undeceiver in the face of lies and the great restorer of the simple truth or abundance. It opens up the way to truth or abundance by its ability to overlook what is not there, what has been blocked by dreams of guilt. Now I am free to follow in the way my true letting go opens up to me. For if one companion has received this gift from me, I have opened the door to myself.
Okay, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's summed up in the first line where it says that it knows what's so the strength of letting go is its honesty. So it knows the difference between what's real and what's illusion, or what's real and what's not real.
Why honesty is the second characteristic of God's teachers. Again, we'll get there when we get to that part of the course, which is in the manual for teachers.
Yeah.
Honesty.
Yeah.
If you're not honest and you want to believe in lies, then you can't do this course. Because you're going to believe in the lies of the ego, and you're not going to be honest enough to say that's just a lie, that's an illusion.
Yeah.
You continue to deceive yourself because you want to deceive yourself, because you want to believe in that, because it's seemingly too difficult to question it.
Yeah.
And that's why, we saw in that movie, that's why it's difficult to be a whistleblower, because everyone just wants to go along and think that it's okay. And if you say it's not okay, then you have to go up against that whole thought system and all these people who believe that it's okay. And there's a price to that. You lose your job, you might be physically threatened, you might even be killed. There's a risk in the world in doing that. But integrity is integrity because it has a cost. In the world, there's a price to it. There's a price to pay. And are you willing to pay that price? For the truth? That becomes the question.
Yeah.
Most people aren't. Most people, oh no, that's too difficult, it's too scary, so I'll just keep quiet.
Yeah.
The ones who do are the people who are ready to awaken, are the great ones of this world.
Yeah.
Who say, okay, I'll stand up and I'll pay the price. Maybe that means my life, as Yeshua was crucified. I'm going to speak the truth so freely and truly, and the only way they're going to stop me is killing me.
Yeah.
And even then, they can't stop me because I can resurrect, which was the last laugh. I was like, okay, well, so you think you can kill me? Okay, well, let's take it to a whole other level then. We'll just come back. What are you going to do now? And of course, there was nothing they could do at that point. In fact, created the greatest legend of all time, which created the biggest religion ever. So he had the last laugh. But I mean, to go through that experience, I just go, these people are hardcore, man, just hardcore. Sorry to put it in such terms, but you think of what Jesus did. Oh my goodness, it's just so hardcore. It's like no man has ever done anything that hard. Well, maybe, but unrecorded. But that was just So imagine the scene. You know they're coming for you.
Mm.
You could run away because you've got followers. You could run to the hills of Judea and you could lie low, and it would all blow over in time, and you wouldn't have to go through this horrendous experience.
Mm.
But you're like, nope, I'm going to do it anyway
Mm.
because this is what has to happen in order for my teaching to become a world teaching.
Yeah.
If I run away, then that's it. My 3 years of ministry is wasted largely.
Mm.
It would never have come into fruition in the way it did if you hadn't gone through the crucifixion, resurrection experience. So imagine everything comes down to that one night, and you sitting there and you waiting, you know what's coming,
Mm.
and you have to hold and you have to go. Like, I'm sweating blood here. It was recorded. He's so like, oh my God, this fate is upon me.
Mm.
It's going to be just horrendous, the physical pain and suffering and the
Mm.
humiliation and everything. And like, I have to face it.
Mm.
Just like, that is just another level, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
hardcore, seriously.
Yeah.
And I will do it because it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
not just for me, for my own awakening, but for everyone. This is for all of humanity, which is why there's the teaching of he took upon the sins of the world. And what he did was for everyone. It didn't mean that everyone didn't have to go through their own learning and their own journey. It just meant that he did something to show us in a very extreme situation of what is possible. And then ultimately the truth will overcome all illusion.
Mm.
But you actually had to live the experience. This wasn't theoretical. This was like, I'm going through this experience. Like, hold on to your horses because this is going to be tough.
Mm.
I've got to go through this for the whole world to demonstrate this truth that I've spoken, I've taught it, I've demonstrated in my words and my actions of healing. But this is going to be the greatest demonstration of it.
Mm.
And it all comes down to this 24 hours. It's like another level, isn't it? It's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Seriously hardcore. But that's why he's the greatest teacher of all time, because he went through that experience. He was willing to go through this horrendous, awful experience for 24 hours to bring the truth to us.
Mm.
In hindsight, you go, okay, well, it was only 24 hours, and like, what's the big deal? But okay, you go through that experience then. What's the big deal? You be flogged and whipped and have
Mm.
to carry a cross till you're
Mm.
exhausted, and then be nailed to a cross, and
Mm.
then be drowning in your own body fluids, and finally be taken down. My theory is he didn't actually die; he survived. He was
Mm.
just in a coma,
Mm.
and then went through some kind of near-death experience in the tomb.
Mm.
But who knows? Whatever it was a horrendous experience to go through. Like, no one should have to go through that. He was spared. He came down after about 6 hours, maybe 3 to 6 hours. So not that long. Whereas some of these crucifixions would go on for days. People
Yeah.
just like die slowly on the
Mm.
cross. Like, days later, they're still there, like gasping there. So
Mm.
he was spared that, I think, because he had friends who were like, okay, you have to go through this. We have to show the Jewish leaders this has happened. You got to pretend you die, but we're not going to break your legs, which is interesting. They didn't break his legs,
Mm.
and they punctured his side, which then it's recorded that a lot of fluid came out, water came out.
Mm.
So he was literally drowning in his own fluids. That probably saved his life
Mm.
because then he could breathe again.
Mm.
Interesting. You look at all of those things that happened that weren't normal in the crucifixion. You're like, okay, there was something else going on there. And then they could take the body, and they were allowed to take the body and put it in a tomb. The body
Mm.
wasn't just disposed of or buried or cremated or something.
Burnt. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because if it had been burnt, then obviously it wouldn't have happened. But
Yeah.
there was a whole dynamic unfolding there, and obviously the Holy Spirit ultimately was behind it all. That was about revealing the truth
Mm.
to everyone through this fairly extraordinary experience that he went through of crucifixion, resurrection.
Mm.
So, um, Did we read number
We
8?
did, yeah. So we're on number 9.
Number 9. You want to read the original?
There is a very simple way to find the door to true forgiveness and perceive it open wide in welcome.
There is a very simple way to find the door to true letting go and perceive it open wide and welcome.
When you feel that you are tempted to accuse someone of sin in any form, do not allow your mind to dwell on what you think he did, for that is self-deception.
When I feel that I'm tempted to accuse someone of sin in any form, I will not allow my mind to dwell on what I think they did, for that is self-deception.
Ask instead, would I accuse myself of doing this?
I will ask instead, do I want to accuse myself of doing this? And then from the top,
there is a very simple way to find the door to true letting go and perceive it open wide in welcome. When I feel that I am tempted to accuse someone of sin in any form, I will not allow my mind to dwell on what I think they did, for that is self-deception. I will ask instead, do I want to accuse myself of doing this?
so a very good question to ask ourselves. Okay, so I'm accusing someone else of doing this, but I'm really accusing myself. So do I want to accuse myself of doing this? Do I want to condemn myself, crucify myself? And the answer is obvious. Well, obviously not.
No. Yeah.
So just with questions, he's disrupting the ego's normal pattern, saying, okay, so just think about it this way. Ask this question. All of these lessons are about disrupting the normal way of perceiving and thinking and creating an alternative in our minds. And in this way, thus, will you see alternatives for choice in terms that render choosing meaningful and keep your mind as free of guilt and pain as God himself intended it to be and as it is in truth.
In this way, I will perceive alternatives for choice in terms that make choosing meaningful and keep my awareness as free of guilt and pain as perfect love or abundance itself intended it to be, and as it is in truth or abundance.
And in formless awareness, formless. It is but lies that would condemn.
Only lies would condemn.
In truth, is innocence the only thing there is.
In truth or abundance, innocence is the only thing there is.
Forgiveness stands between illusions and the truth, between the world you see and that which lies beyond, between the hell of guilt and heaven's gate.
Letting go stands between illusions and the truth or and the truth of abundance, between the world I perceive and the reality of abundance which lies beyond it, between a helpless, enervated little life of victimhood and suffering that guilt produces and the state of pure formless awareness or abundance.
From the top,
in this way, I will perceive alternatives for choice in terms that make choosing meaningful and keep my awareness as free of guilt and pain as pure formless awareness of perfect love or abundance itself intended it to be, and as it is in truth or abundance. Only lies would condemn. In truth or abundance, innocence is the only thing there is. Letting go stands between illusions and the truth of abundance, between the world I perceive and the reality of abundance which lies beyond it, between a helpless, enervated little life of victimhood and suffering that guilt produces and the state of pure formless awareness or abundance.
okay, thoughts on that? What's he saying there in summary?
Yeah, it's about choosing again. So, choosing truth or abundance.
And when you forgive, you're choosing.
Yeah.
Again. So
Yeah.
that forgiveness is the process of choosing another self, another reality, the truth over illusion, and it's the practice of doing that repeatedly
Yeah.
that eventually convinces you that this is the only truth, that this is the only reality, because you've chosen it and you've chosen it and you've chosen it again, chosen it again. You see that ultimately there's no other option. Eventually, choice collapses. But while you're in the illusion, there appears to be a choice, and you have to make that choice consistently, repeatedly, until eventually there's nothing left to choose because you made that choice so fully, so completely that there's no choosing anymore. It's just you've accepted that as who you are. That's your reality.
Yeah.
But it's a bridge, as he says, across this bridge, as powerful as love, which laid its blessing on all dreams of evil and of hatred and attack, brought silently to truth.
Across this bridge, as powerful as love or abundance, which continually blesses the world, all dreams of evil, hatred, and attack are brought silently to truth or abundance.
They are not kept to swell and bluster and to terrify the foolish dreamer who believes in them.
They are not kept to swell and bluster, to terrify the foolish dreamer who believes in them.
He has been gently wakened from his dream by understanding what he thought he saw was never there.
I have been gently awakened from my nightmare by understanding that what I thought I perceived was never there.
And now he cannot feel that all escape has been denied to him.
And now I can feel confident that I will ultimately escape from the nightmare.
Yeah, a bit of poetic license there, but very true. We ultimately go, okay, this is my way out. Like once you understand that this course is your way out, this is your salvation, this is what's going to save you, you start to take it seriously, don't you? Like, okay, it's no longer like some clever intellectual teaching. It's like, no, I absolutely have to learn this course in order to be free.
Yeah.
There's no other way. All right, so across the bridge. Just want a bit of Ryan on spacing. See if I can make it go back. There we go. So yeah, if you can read that.
Across the bridge, as powerful as love, which laid its blessing on it, are all dreams of evil and of hatred and attack brought silently to truth.
And then, these images are quite nice. Illusions, the world you see, the hell of guilt, all the separation, the unkindness, etc. So it's someone who's hurt someone else, obviously hit him or something, and then just walks away. Forgiveness looks through that and goes, those characters aren't real, right? Only the light beyond them, underlying them, is real. And that is a glimpse of the ultimate truth that lies beyond the heaven's gate. That is the state of pure formless awareness.
His step is light, and as he lifts his foot to stride ahead, a star is left behind to point the way to those who follow him.
So we become a living example of someone who's listening to the truth. And if we think of the likes of, we speak about them often, Yeshua, the Buddha. I mean, it's extraordinary. These people are people who lived 2,000 to 2,500 years ago. And we're still, quoting their examples, their teachings, their words. I mean, this is immortality. This is about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as profound an impact as you can ever have
Mm,
in the world. You know, we still listening to their words, their teachings, following their guidance.
mm,
Quite extraordinary, really,
mm.
because it's true, because they stood for the truth,
Yeah,
which is eternal. Then their life takes on that sort of eternal quality,
yeah.
and for all time, throughout the ages, you know, people will remember. As long as humanity exists, people remember Yeshua, the Buddha, and these great spiritual masters
Mm,
because of what they stood for.
mm.
Okay. So if you want to read the original, I'll read the alternative.
Mhm.
The next one, number 12.
Yeah, he does not have to fight to save himself.
I do not have to fight to awaken myself.
He does not have to kill the dragons which he thought pursued him.
I do not have to kill the illusory threats which I thought pursued me.
Nor need he erect the heavy walls of stone and iron doors he thought would make him safe.
Nor do I need to invent heavy defenses that I think will make me safe.
He can remove the ponderous and useless armor made to chain his mind to fear and misery.
I can remove the ponderous and useless armor of defenses made to limit my awareness to fear and misery.
His step is light, and as he lifts his foot to stride ahead, a star is left behind to point the way to those who follow him.
My step is light, and as I lift my foot to stride ahead, a sign is left behind to point the way to those who follow me.
Mm.
So we become way shows, just like
Yeah.
those people of old, Jesus, the Buddha. We become the way shows. We can show other people the way to live in this different way.
Mm.
And we become the living example, the living truth
Yeah.
of that. And some people will learn
Yeah.
from you. It's not like
Yeah.
you have to convince everyone, but
Yeah.
you know, for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, as Yeshua
Mm.
said, you know, they will pay attention and you know, hopefully follow that example and find their own way out of hell,
Yeah.
which is all there is really to do here. Okay, so forgiveness leads to defenselessness. Picture of someone slumbering on the couch.
Mm.
Obviously, some sort of innocence. And then if you just read that again, this is from the last paragraph.
Yeah. So he who has forgiven does not have to fight to save himself. He does not have to kill the dragons which he thought pursued him, nor need he erect the heavy walls of stone and iron doors he thought would make him safe. He can take off the ponderous and useless armor made to chain his mind to fear and misery.
Hmm. Pretty more world leaders couldn't read that,
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make a difference?
Mm.
Interesting. If you want to learn the story of a leader who did, have you heard the story of Ashoka?
Yes. Yeah.
Phenomenal story. I mean, what that guy, the transformation that he went through
Mm.
from really being a tyrant,
Yeah.
very cruel,
Yeah.
to this enlightened, way ahead of his time. He was creating like national parks and
Mm.
like doing all kinds of stuff that you know we only saw really 2,000 years later.
Yeah.
Extraordinary awareness. So it's you know this is what's possible if
Mm.
you just take away all of that heavy armor,
Mm.
and let go of those defenses.
Mm.
Um, and you know he was a very happy, respected ruler. His kingdom didn't get taken away from him. In fact,
Mm.
it was you know much better than if he went around defending himself and killing off all of his rivals and you know doing the stuff all the most of these rulers of the time did.
Mm.
And again, you know, we remember him in history. We go, oh, yeah, we talk about Ashoka the Great. I
Mm.
don't remember any of the other tyrant kings. No one remembers them. They're a
Mm.
footnote in history. But, you know, we do remember those who stood for something greater,
Yeah.
something higher. So
Yeah.
again, there's the lesson, you know, will you stand for that? And that gives your life the only meaning it has in this world. if you stand for the truth and you
Yeah.
live according to that, then your life has the only meaning it ever has,
Yeah.
ever going to have in this world. And then the search for meaning, like Viktor Frankl talks about man's search for meaning.
Mm.
Then your search for meaning is fulfilled. You find the only meaning that your little human life really has is, to stand for something greater, to stand for the truth
Yeah.
that you and everyone else is, and you live your life according to that. And then your life becomes immortalized.
Mm.
Then your little life here, yes, you're going to die in the body, but your example never dies. The truth that you stood for never dies.
Yeah.
So you essentially become immortal, which is another perspective on what resurrection really means. It doesn't mean that you come back physically from life. It means that your life becomes immortalized and resurrected in this eternal truth because
Yeah.
you stood for that. And that's again what we can interpret from Yeshua's experience. He
Yeah.
became immortal through the resurrection because of the truth that he stood for.
Yeah.
To the point of death. It cost him his physical life, but that wasn't as important as the truth.
Mm.
Okay, so forgiveness must be practiced, for the world cannot perceive its meaning, nor provide a guide to teach you its beneficence.
I must practice letting go, for the world cannot perceive its meaning, nor provide a guide to teach me its beneficence.
There is no thought in all the world that leads to any understanding of the laws it follows, nor the thought that it reflects.
There is no thought in the world, there is no thought in the whole world that leads to any understanding of the laws it follows, nor the thought that it reflects.
It is as alien to the world as is your own reality.
It is as alien to the world as my own reality or abundance is.
And yet it joins your mind with the reality in you.
And yet it joins my awareness with the reality or abundance in me.
Okay, from the top.
Mm-hmm. I must practice letting go, for the world cannot perceive its meaning, nor provide a guide to teach me its beneficence. There is no thought in the whole world that leads to any understanding of the laws it follows, nor the thought that it reflects. It is as alien to the world as my own reality or abundance is, and yet it joins my awareness with the reality or abundance in me.
All right, so thoughts on that?
Yeah, letting go is everything. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
And we must practice it. This slide is saying you must practice it.
Yeah.
For the world cannot perceive its meaning or provide a guide to teach you its beneficence. So the world isn't going to teach you this. We kind of already know that. I mean, did you learn forgiveness at school? No. Did you learn it from your parents? No. Did anyone teach you until much later in your life when you suffered enough and then you started on the spiritual path? There's only a spiritual teacher, genuine spiritual teacher, can teach you forgiveness.
Mm.
So it's not a worldly teaching at all. In fact, the world denies that forgiveness is possible or real.
Mm.
As he says, there's no thought in all the world will lead to any understanding of the laws it follows.
Mm. And up until now, the only forgiveness I did learn was that of compassionate forgiveness. So it wasn't even the radical forgiveness.
Yeah,
No,
because
that, yeah,
that's about the best the ego can
yeah,
offer. And I'm not saying, I mean, that's a start. It's not.
yeah,
It's like a halfway house. Like, okay, well, at least you're starting to question that terrible judgmental condemnation of the ego and say, okay, well, maybe there is another way of looking at it. Maybe
mm,
like I can soften that,
mm,
but I'm not going to ever let it go fully because it's still going to be there in my mind.
yeah,
I'm just trying to mitigate the consequences of it. The radical forgiveness just says, no, it's just not. It's not even there. It's not even
yeah,
real. You're just dreaming.
yeah,
Just like a nightmare that you're having. We've all had that experience where we've had a dream and we've woken up and gone, oh, thank God that was only a dream. That was terrible. It's gone. It's over. I don't have to overanalyze the nightmare. It was just a nightmare.
mm,
That's how the Holy Spirit's asking us to perceive all of our experiences
mm,
here even though like we still carry on for a while in the human form, and the world doesn't just disappear. That's what makes it more challenging. But we can still apply the same principle, realizing that it's simply not true. And then just read this little bit below. There's no thought in all the world.
Yeah, Jonathan, I have a meeting at 7. Is it possible that we could maybe go into the meditation so that?
Yeah, what's the time?
Yeah, 6:35.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
we've been going for 4 hours.
Exactly. So
Okay. Yeah, and we kind of there. This is about 14 leads us into the meditation. So let's read that, and then we'll go into the mid.
can we maybe just read the alternative then?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So today,
While you do that, I'm just gonna pop to the loop because I desperately need it. So apologies.
Yeah.
Read it.
Okay, so today I practice true letting go so that the time of joining is not delayed anymore. For I want to meet with my reality in freedom, abundance, and peace. My practicing becomes the footsteps lighting up the way for all my companions who will follow me to the reality I share with them. Let me spend 15 minutes twice today, with the guide who understands the meaning of letting go and was sent to me to teach it so that I may accomplish this. I will ask it, help me to perceive letting go as it really is.
Okay, so there's the invitation to a meditation. Just perceive it as it really is, and he's gonna take us through the exercise of choosing one person, and then perceiving them differently. So I'll guide you through that in the meditation.
Yeah.
Because it's best done in a kind of altered state of mind, really.
Yeah. And can we finish by 7 o'clock, please? If that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the time now? 25 to.
Yeah.
Okay. 20 minutes. No problem. Okay. So see you on the other side of this. Are we doing another session on Wednesday?
Was it Wednesday or Thursday? Oh yeah, I think
Wednesday.
it was Wednesday, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Wednesday. Was it 5 or 6?
Let me just check. I've got it in my diary as 6.
6. Okay.
6 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. So let's go for it then. It's going to get the recording going. Where? That's what I want. Selected. All right. So this is a meditation on today's lesson. To help us to practice this idea of forgiveness, help us to perceive letting go as it really is. So just sitting comfortably, your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through your nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile, scan your mind. Notice any thoughts, emotions, related body sensations that are in any way disturbing. And let them go with the help of today's lesson. So say, help me to perceive forgiveness or letting go as it really is. It means you simply deny the reality of any of the dreams that you think are real. So exhale, blow them away, letting them go with the breeze of your breath into the nothingness that they really are. And going, gone. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Just rest here in this still, calm, quiet, peaceful state. Notice the stillness that arises from the gap between breaths. In the emptiness comes the fullness. Air rushing into a vacuum. Just allow the spirit to come in and guide you through this meditation. Central part of which is a mind training exercise. So I'm going to guide you through that, just breathing in and out through your nose as I do that. Nice, deep, slow, rhythmical breaths. Connect with your breath. Watch the breath flowing into the nostrils and out of the nostrils. Just suspend all thought or judgment by putting all your attention on the breath. So you're clearing your mind, emptying your mind of all of its thoughts and emotions. So you're prepared for this exercise. So now I want you to choose one person who's one person in your life who has perhaps done something you didn't like, seemed to have hurt you or someone else that you know. So just catalog their so-called sins, their mistakes, their errors, things you hold grievances for, as one by one they arise in your awareness. Just breathing in and out through your nose as you do this. Bring them to mind briefly. Think about them. Maybe you feel that grievance again. You feel the emotion related to that. But don't dwell on any one of them. Just realize that what you're doing is using their offenses, so-called offenses, to free the world from all ideas of sin. So as part of that process, just briefly consider all the evil things I thought about them. And each time you do that, ask yourself, do I want to condemn myself for doing this? Do I really want to condemn myself for doing this? Because that's essentially what you're doing. As soon as you judge them, you attack them in your mind, who experiences the effects of that condemnation? They don't. They're nowhere near you. They're somewhere else. You do. You experience the contraction in your mind, experience that thought of attack, experience the separation from them and from your source, to really condemning yourself to a helpless, enervated little life of separation. So choose to free them from all the thoughts that you had of sin in them. So now I'm prepared for freedom or abundance. You breathe that in to every pore, every cell, every muscle, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. Just breathe in this inner freedom, this abundance, this love, this peace. And maybe you begin to sense a feeling of being lifted up, a lightening of weight across your chest, a deep and certain feeling of relief. So exhale, and just as you exhale, just let go of everything that you're holding on to. The judgment, the inherent guilt in that judgment, projecting guilt onto them, the grievance, the attack thought, the irritation, the fear perhaps, the mental and emotional disturbance, use of the heavy chains, the false beliefs, that you impose on your companion and on yourself. Which really burden you. Remind yourself that I perceive letting go as it really is. Do I accuse myself of doing this? I will not limit my awareness in this way. So feel the power and the truth of this practice of letting go, and say, if you breathe in again, I am not crucified alone. And yet I cannot enter heaven by myself. I cannot enter the state of pure formless awareness or abundance by myself. And so it is. So with that invitation, just spend a couple of minutes in this state of pure formless awareness or abundance. It's an abundant state. There's really nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. Nothing else to think about. You are. There's really nowhere else to go, and there's nothing else to do. There's nothing else to think about. Just sinking inwards, going deeper and deeper with each breath into this calm, quiet, still, peaceful state. State of pure formless awareness, state of abundance, beyond all judgment of anyone or anything lies this pure awareness of our shared being. So just allow yourself to experience this pure awareness, this unity, this oneness, this perfect innocence for yourself. Any thoughts arise, seemingly disturb this deep peace. Just notice them. Remind yourself that I'm not crucified alone, and yet I cannot enter the state of pure formless awareness or abundance by myself. So as I let go, so I help the entire awakening. And if I hold on and I want to crucify myself, then I participate in that process forever. So just gently coming back from this deep state of pure formless awareness or abundance. And on the count of 3, you're going to bring yourself back into the world, into the body, same way we came in. To the meditation, we're going to exit. So with the breath, count of 1, just breathing in, noticing how the breath flows into the nostrils, stomach and the chest rise. Full deep inhale, breath, pause at the top of the inhale, hold the breath briefly. Just scan your mind, observe your mental state, your emotional state. Think of that person you did the exercise with again and notice how you're feeling towards them. Is it calmer, more peaceful? Can you see them as less separate, perhaps as entirely one with you? There's no longer any sense of you as a separate person from them. Notice that, acknowledge it. Remind yourself that whenever you accuse someone else of doing something, you're accusing yourself of doing it. And you don't want to lay this chain upon you, this burden, limit your awareness in this way. So count to 2, exhale, and just let go of all of this one last time. Remind yourself, I'm not crucified alone, and yet I cannot enter the state of pure formless awareness or abundance by myself. So as I forgive them, so I forgive myself and allow myself this experience. Just let it go, blowing it all out. The breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Pull the low stomach into the spine. It's going, gone. Just rest in this pure state of awareness for a few moments. Anchor this state in. And in this state, notice what you're feeling and touching, tasting, maybe smelling as you breathe in again. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from a very still, calm, aware state of pure formless awareness. There's a state of presence, of pure awareness, in which you're not judging and labeling and doing all the things the ego likes to do. There's just a very clear, calm, peaceful awareness. So lock this in, anchor this in. This is your default state that you want to lock into for the rest of the evening. So it is said and so it is done. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. So take a minute just to look around. Just noticing what's going on around you with your visual sense the most dominant. Without any judgment, without any mental commentary. Notice how peaceful that awareness is. And just resolve to stay in this awareness. Use the lesson if you need to. Top yourself up. Use the breath breaks that I've given you, or the meditation. Maybe do that again before bed, just to top you up into the state. And that should help you have a very peaceful, flowing evening, which is my wish for you. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and tonight's session. All right, so Archie, shall we leave it there? I think you're still muted. Archie, are you there? Maybe you've dropped off. Okay, well, I'm going to say...
I'm here, Jonathan, sorry.
Yeah.
Simon
Okay.
just delivered dinner.
So right.
That was good timing.
Yeah, all right, good. So
yeah, no, thank you.
just try and lock into that state and, stay in that state.
Yes, yeah.
Let it guide you through the rest of your evening and the rest of your week. Practice. Remember, if you're tempted to judge anyone in the next couple of days, say, would I accuse myself of doing this?
Yeah.
So that's a good way of just reminding yourself of these teachings. And I will see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, great. Okay.
6 o'clock.
Thanks then.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye.
Yes, you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, so that is a wrap for today. If you enjoyed that session, then why not subscribe to the channel? I go live a couple of times a week. You'll be notified by YouTube whenever that happens, so you can catch the live stream or the recording. You could also head over to lifepool.com. The spelling of that is in the background image, or you can find it in the comments below. You can click the link and you can subscribe there to my Telegram channel. I send out most of the information that you saw today on a daily basis, different quotes, usually some commentary on that, some teachings on the quote, and then the daily mind training lesson from A Course in Miracles in its original alternative form, with a short mini meditation or breath break to help you practice it. All of that's freely available at lifepool.com. Make sure you've got Telegram installed on your phone. It's a free messaging app similar to WhatsApp. If you don't already use it, you can download it free on the Google Play or the App Store. So that's it, really, for today. Thank you for watching or listening. Please post any comments. Love to hear your comments, and I respond to all comments. So please post them below, and I look forward to hopefully connecting with you in one of these live sessions or in the group. Thanks for watching or listening, and namaste, which means the truth in me acknowledges and honors that same simple truth in you. Wishing you much love.